Chapter 2144. The black-yellow universe was in the midst of the Great Destruction, and there were people fighting in every region. Under such circumstances, at the beginning of the Great Destruction, some abandoned planets and macro-worlds were often the safest. Lin Tian sat cross-legged and operated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. Faint nine-colored saint light intertwined around his body. Then, with the understanding he gained from the battle with the black-clothed Dominator, he adjusted and optimized some of the saint force routes of the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. This process was not simple, and it took a lot of time. Then, in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Half a month had passed. On this day, the nine-colored saint light outside his body had naturally become thicker and purer, and his aura had become stronger. The next moment, he opened his eyes. "Great!" he muttered to himself. In half a month, he had perfected the Reincarnation Heart Sutra once. Now, it was even stronger than before. However, it was still not completely perfect, and it still needed to be adjusted. After all, a truly perfect ancient sutra could not be created in such a short time. It would take a long time to polish it. He took a deep breath. The Reincarnation Heart Sutra that had been polished once was still operating. After a pause, he took out the jade bottle that he had obtained before. As he took out the jade bottle, very rich life essence immediately intertwined in this place, as if to drown the surrounding space. His eyes flashed as he placed the jade bottle in front of him and began to absorb the life essence within, refining it into his own flesh and blood with the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. Suddenly, as he refined the life essence, the nine-colored saint light outside his body suddenly became dazzling. Just like that, time passed. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. A month later, the life essence in the jade bottle was completely exhausted. The nine-colored saint light outside his body became even more dazzling, and the essence, chi, and spirit he exuded were much stronger than a month ago. Fourth level Saint Master. He opened his eyes, and there was a wisp of bright light that flashed through his eyes. This time, the essence of life in the jade bottle was not as much as the essence of life in the Supreme World. After all, that world was too ordinary. There were not as many living creatures as in the Supreme World, and they were not as strong. Therefore, the quality and quantity of the essence of life collected were very different. That was why the essence of life collected was very different from the essence of life in the Supreme World. However, even so, to Lin Tian, this effect was extraordinary. It allowed him to raise his cultivation by 2 small stages in a short month. One must know that he was a holy venerate. In the holy venerate realm, he had advanced by 2 small levels in a short month. Such a cultivation speed was shocking. He clenched his fist and sensed for a moment. He could clearly feel that he was stronger now. Whether it was the strength of his flesh shell, the amount of saint energy, the strength of his consciousness, or his soul, all of them had improved by leaps and bounds. He paused there for a moment, but he did not linger. He directly left and entered the starry sky of the universe. As his cultivation had increased by 2 small levels, he had reached the 4th heavenly layer of Saint Master. The senses of his soul had become even more powerful, and his senses had become even more powerful. Even without using his soul to explore, he could still hear the cries of slaughter from the nearby stars. He knew that it must be the soldiers of the celestial court who were wreaking havoc. "I wonder how long this great devastation will last," Jian Chen murmured to himself. Now, the celestial court wanted to destroy the universe. The first step was to collect the life essence of the billions of beings in the universe. The second step was to destroy the various worlds in the universe, which would lead to the complete collapse of the universe. The first step was to collect the life essence of the billions of beings, which would take an extremely long time. This was because the collection of life essence required the celestial soldiers and generals to go to various worlds to kill living beings. At the same time, the celestial soldiers and generals would use special containers to collect the life essence. They could not collect the life essence after destroying the world, because if they directly destroyed the world and then collected the life essence of the living beings who died because of the destruction of the world, the results would be greatly reduced. At least 80% of the life essence would be washed away and disappear due to the process of the destruction of the world, which would be a huge loss. As a result, the great devastation could not be completed overnight. Even if the celestial court had many experts, it would still take over 100 years to complete. After all, the universe was just far too vast. It's just like the heartless old Taoist said. Destroying the universe requires the accumulation of experts and time. Jianchen murmured to himself. He thought to himself. After that, when he thought about what the old Taoist Wu Yang said, he couldn't help but frown. What kind of background did that old guy have? He knew too many things. Also, the oracle bone on that old guy's neck was really too extraordinary. After a short pause, he shook his head and stopped thinking about that unscrupulous old man. Now that he was in the midst of the great destruction of the black-yellow universe, it was more important to think about how to survive and become stronger in the end of the great destruction. By the way, thinking about the great devastation of the universe, Jianchen suddenly narrowed his eyes and came up with a very good idea. While looking for the little guy and that stupid tiger, I'll rob the celestial court of these pristine jade bottles. The celestial court was killing thousands of creatures in every corner of the universe to collect life essence. Such life essence was useless in small amounts, but the celestial court had collected a lot of it in containers like the pristine jade bottles. Now, he wanted to rob these pristine jade bottles directly and snatch the life essence in them. In the great devastation, the pristine jade bottles that the celestial court used to collect life essence in various worlds were undoubtedly super treasures that could be seen and touched. Not only could they be used to help him comprehend and create new techniques, but they could also be used to directly refine and improve his cultivation. They could allow him to perfect his techniques in a very short time and create his own divine killing technique. Moreover, his cultivation would also be greatly improved. So, why wouldn't he rob such a precious treasure? Moreover, with his current strength and that terrifying ancient corpse, only the ancestor of the celestial court and existences stronger than the ancestor of the celestial court could threaten him. Ordinary experts of the celestial court could not do anything to him. Immediately, he revealed a cold smile and moved. He took a simple step forward and disappeared in an instant. Not long after, he appeared in a great world that was as vast as the celestial realm. There was a very strong smell of blood in the air. Everywhere he went, there were miserable cries continuously coming from various regions. There were celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the celestial court currently slaughtering in this world. After entering this great world, Jianchen looked directly at the center of the great world and strode toward it. The pristine jade bottles that the celestial court used to collect life essence in various worlds were placed in the center of the great world. Chapter 2145. The voice came from afar, and Lin Tian's expression changed. A descendant of the immortal spirit royalty? The only descendants of the immortal spirit royalty that he knew of were the current immortal spirit royal lord and the little Taichu. Both of them had been swept into this universe. Was it the former or the latter that had been discovered? Immediately, he stepped forward and walked in the direction of the voice. In the blink of an eye, he had crossed hundreds of thousands of feet. The immortal spirit royalty. It said that there are very few of them. Throughout history, there have been less than 100 members of the immortal spirit royalty, but each of them is extremely terrifying. Their bloodline is shockingly strong, even stronger than the chaotic king body. It's only second to the legendary reincarnation body. It's said that the ancestor of this bloodline has a very shocking origin. What's the specific origin? How would I know? I only heard that it's very terrifying and involves some kind of taboo. The one who was discovered seems to be a little guy from this bloodline. It's said that he's only a saint king. Several sovereigns chased him into a forbidden area. Now those sovereigns are searching for him in that forbidden area. A saint king? No matter how strong that bloodline is, the little guy who was discovered is only a saint king. It's not enough for the heavenly masters or even the ancient ancestors to go after him, right? Didn't I say that another great secret was discovered in that world? It's very influential. The heavenly masters and the ancient ancestors didn't go there for the little guy from the immortal spirit royalty. They went there for that great secret. In front of him, a group of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals were walking together. They had just finished slaughtering the creatures in one area of this world. As they walked toward another area, they were casually discussing. It was also at this moment that the sound of air being torn apart resounded as Lin Tian rushed over with extreme speed. "There's still a human here? Kill him." The group of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals naturally saw Lin Tian. Their cultivation was very high, and each of them had the battle prowess of a Saint King. When they saw Lin Tian appear, they seemed very casual. One of them directly waved his hand and threw out a large amount of killing saint light at Lin Tian. Lin Tian stepped forward. He didn't care about the killing saint light at all. The pressure that naturally intertwined around his body instantly shattered all the killing saint light. Then, a powerful pressure spread out and suppressed everyone. Instantly, the group of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals were unable to move. These people did not expect that Lin Tian, who had suddenly appeared, would actually be so powerful. That pressure caused them to feel fear. Lin Tian used a Saint King. At the same time, his majestic divine consciousness searched through everyone's divine spiritual sea. At the same time, it was several breaths' divine soul. "It's the little guy." He was pleasantly surprised and worried at the same time. He was happy because after searching through the divine spiritual sea, he found that the descendant of the celestial spirit royal family that the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals had mentioned was the little Taichu. Now he finally found traces of the little Taichu. But he was worried because he learned that the little guy had been discovered by several rulers of the celestial court and had been forced into a dangerous land. More rulers of the celestial court had found out and entered the land together to capture the little guy. Because the bloodline of the celestial spirit royal family was too powerful, the celestial court had always been very concerned about it. Immediately, he raised his hand and tore open the world barrier of this world. He stepped out of this world with a single step. Almost at the same time he left, the group of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals that he had suppressed exploded on the spot. They were all destroyed in body and soul. In another place, the sky was dark and the smell of blood was very thick in the air. Screams and cries of pain could be heard everywhere. In a mountain range, the void cracked open and Lin Tian stepped out of it. The moment he stepped into this world, he spread out his powerful divine sense and found the nearest battlefield. He directly crossed it and soon arrived. There were many cultivators of the black-yellow universe who were facing the siege of a group of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. There were many corpses on the ground. They were all cultivators of the black-yellow universe who could not stop the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals of the celestial court. Clang! When he arrived at this place, a large number of sword lights manifested around him, covering the entire battlefield and attacking the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals indiscriminately. In the blink of an eye, all the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals were wiped out. There were more than 100 cultivators of the black-yellow universe in this place. When they saw this scene, they were all surprised and delighted. Many thanks, Senior. Everyone bowed to Lin Tian. The group of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals who were besieging them were all wiped out by Lin Tian in the blink of an eye. Lin Tian had saved all their lives. Otherwise, they would have been killed soon. Lin Tian did not approach these people. He spoke quickly. "Excuse me, where is the soul-perishing abyss in this world?" From the divine sense of the group of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals, he learned that the little Taichu was in this world and was forced into a dangerous place called the soul-perishing abyss. However, the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals did not know the exact location of the soul-perishing abyss. Therefore, he came to this place to save the cultivators of the black-yellow universe who were being besieged and asked them about it. He believed that these cultivators who belonged to this world must know where the soul-perishing abyss was. In fact, it was just as he thought. These cultivators were very familiar with the death soul abyss. They immediately told him everything they knew about the Death Soul Abyss. Many thanks. He thanked these cultivators, and then tore open a space portal according to the spatial coordinates of the soul-perishing abyss mentioned by these people. He stepped into it and disappeared. The next moment, a space portal suddenly appeared in another place in this world. He stepped out of it. In front of him, there was a huge abyss. It was unknown how deep it was. Below it, there were wisps of light black mist floating, mixed with a gust of cold air. Soul-perishing abyss. This world was comparable in size to the immortal realm of the primordial universe. With his current cultivation, he could easily tear open a space portal in such a big world and reach any corner of this world in an instant. At this time, he looked at the soul-perishing abyss in front of him. His eyes flashed, and he could not help but clench his fist. It's here! In this place, in the air, he felt the aura of the little guy. Although it was very weak, he still caught it. Without any hesitation, he jumped directly into the soul-perishing abyss and soon came to the bottom of the abyss. At the bottom of the abyss, the air and soil were a little moist. The ground was bumpy, and there were some scattered bones in some places. Lin Tian did not care about these. His eyes fell straight on the ground in front of him. There was a pool of blood and a few bunches of snow-white hair, which made him immediately anxious. Chapter 2146. Looking at the little Taichu's blood and hair on the ground, Lin Tianyi became very anxious. Don't let anything happen to it. He prayed in his heart. His majestic divine consciousness spread out, following the remnants of the little Taichu's aura in the air, and immediately chased it down at an extremely fast speed. In this abyss, there was a faint black fog floating in the air. It was a little gloomy, as if it was a small hell. Roar! When he rushed down a few hundred feet, strange ferocious beasts rushed out. Their faces were ferocious, and there was more than one of them. They pounced toward him. Their auras very strong. Moreover, there was far more than one of these strange, ferocious beasts. There were many of them, and they were very densely packed. There were at least hundreds of them. As they pounced together, the ground rumbled and trembled from the tremors. At this time, Lin Tian was worried about the little Taichu. He did not seem to see these strange, ferocious beasts pouncing toward him, and directly rushed past them. Pooh! 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 Blood splattered, and the hundreds of ferocious beasts that rushed toward him were immediately destroyed. He followed the little Taichu's aura at an extremely fast speed. After that, he encountered a few very special terrains in this abyss that could even affect sovereign rank powerhouses. However, naturally they were not difficult for him. For the Kernim, walking in such terrains was like walking on flat ground. Soon, a full hour passed. Suddenly, there was a roar in front of him, and there was a surge of saint power, which made him immediately change his expression. There was a bloodline fluctuation unique to the little guy. Immediately, he raised his speed to the limit and turned into a beam of light, rushing forward. In front of him, there was a valley located very far away. Around the valley, the ground was bumpy, and the soil was very wet. You can barely borrow the power of the heaven and earth, and you have an extraordinary true world. You have learned a lot, as expected of a descendant of that clan. There were a total of 13 middle-aged men outside the valley, all of them intertwined with sovereign rank pressure. They looked at the little Taichu at the edge of the valley, and one of them said, "Unfortunately, your cultivation is only at the Saint King rank. How long can you last in front of us? I advise you to obediently lie down so that you won't suffer so much later." In the valley, the little Taichu was covered in blood. Its aura was weak, and it was supporting the primordial immortal world, surrounded by a faint six-colored holy light. After being swept into this strange world, it had been alone for the first time and had reached the 9th heavenly layer realm. However, it was discovered by several sovereign rank powerhouses of the celestial court, and they chased after it. It had used all its means, using its powerful bloodline and the primordial immortal world bloodline and primordial immortal world and primordial immortal realm. It was discovered. Was chased after it. It had used all using its primordial immortal. Its end, as it worse, as it had cultivated with Lin Tian for a long time, and had seen Lin Tian use the dragon burial scripture many times. Even though it hadn't cultivated it, it still had some understanding of the layout of heaven and earth. Under the soul-decimating abyss, it had borrowed the power of heaven and earth, the power of the primordial immortal empire, and its own bloodline to barely hold on until now. Lin Tian, father, mother. Looking at the middle-aged sovereigns outside the valley, it became sad. It had used the heaven time, the primordial immortal world, and its bloodline to barely hold on until now. Now it couldn't hold on any longer. Its holy power was about to dry up. At this moment, it thought of Lin Tian, Wu Yi, the celestial emperor, and its mother, whom it had never met. The primordial immortal world around it shook and gradually disappeared into its body. The six-colored holy light around it also disappeared. I thought it could hold on for a while longer, but I didn't think it'd be so soon. Outside the valley, a blue-robed sovereign said indifferently, "However, I have to praise you. You're worthy of being a descendant of the celestial emperor. You're only a saint king, yet you can hold on for so long." To the side, another sovereign said, "Enough. Stop talking nonsense. Suppress it and take it away. We're in the midst of the great destruction of Xianhuang. We still have many things to do." The other 11 sovereigns nodded. "I know. I'm just lamenting," the blue-robed sovereign said and strode into the valley. The little Taichu clenched its little paws, its eyes filled with sadness as it glared at the approaching sovereign. It was at this moment that an ear-piercing sword hum resounded through the sky. Lin Tian had arrived, and he immediately saw the blood-soaked little Alpha Primordium in the valley. He saw the blue-robed dominator and the other 12 middle-aged dominators rushing towards the little fellow. He immediately activated the Heavenly Sword Manual, and countless heavenly sword lights rained down on the blue-robed dominator like a rain of swords. The blue-robed sovereign frowned. He immediately stopped and dodged the rain of swords. At the same time, Lin Tian moved so quickly that it was as if he were teleporting. In the blink of an eye, he broke through the special earth vein pattern around the valley and appeared next to the little Taichu. The little Taichu had been glaring at the blue-robed sovereign in grief, but when it saw Lin Tian appear, it was stunned. It rubbed its eyes with its little paws, then looked at Lin Tian again. When it realized that this wasn't an illusion, it was overjoyed. It threw itself at Lin Tian. "Yeah, Lin Tian." The little fellow was overjoyed. After being swept into this foreign world, she was all alone. Originally, she thought that she was going to be captured and die. Unexpectedly, Lin Tian appeared at this time. While she was pleasantly surprised, she couldn't help but tear up a little. Lin Tian was also overjoyed. "I've finally found," as he spoke, he looked at the little guy who had thrown himself at him. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he stopped talking. When he looked at it from afar, he'd only noticed that the little guy's body was covered in blood. Now that he was up close, he realized that the little guy's injuries were far too severe. There were several bloody holes on its tiny body, and many of its internal organs had been shattered. The beautiful wings on its back had been snapped in half, and they couldn't be repaired immediately. Suddenly, a monstrous chill and killing intent radiated from his body. The entire valley shook, and the ground began to crumble inch by inch. The little guy had been born for many years, and his temperament had always been that of a child. He was innocent and naive, and very lovable. But now he'd been injured so severely. This made his heart ache, and at the same time rage. Buzz! He activated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra to its limits. 9-colored holy light interweaved, pure and rich. It enveloped the little guy and surged into his body, quickly healing his wounds and restoring his vitality. At the same time, he tilted his head and looked at the 13 sovereigns outside the valley. His eyes shone with boundless killing intent. "All of you will die here." Clang! Chapter 2147. The precious weapons of the 13 sects were all sky-level Emperor weapons. The pressure they exuded was so strong that it shattered the void. The expressions of the 13 middle-aged sovereigns changed. Each of them had been targeted by an Emperor weapon. The sky-level killing power made them tremble involuntarily. It was hard to believe that Lin Tian, a cultivator who looked like a saint venerable, had so many sky-level precious weapons. While they were still in shock, the 13 of them immediately activated their powerful divine abilities and secret arts to greet the attack. However, the sky-level Emperor weapons were too powerful. In the blink of an eye, their divine powers and secret techniques were all shattered. Poof! The blue-clothed juggernaut was struck by an Emperor divine weapon. His physical body immediately crumbled, and only his divine soul was barely preserved. Die! Lin Tian's voice was cold. He treated little Taichu's injuries while controlling the 13 sects Emperor weapons with the weapon control technique. At this moment, they pressed down on the blue-clothed sovereign, sealing off all directions and isolating everything. The killing power was vast and mighty. The blue-clothed sovereign's divine soul trembled. He looked at Lin Tian and could not help but shout, "Stop!" However, these words were completely unnecessary. Seeing that the little Taichu had been injured to the point that he had temporarily lost the ability to heal himself, Lin Tian was furious. How could he show mercy? He activated the 13 sects Emperor weapons with an even stronger saint force. Ah! With a shrill cry, the blue-clothed sovereign's divine soul was shattered and disappeared from the world. For a moment, the other 12 sovereigns could not help but tremble. "Let's go!" One of them gritted his teeth and quickly retreated into the distance. At the same time, the other 11 sovereigns also fled together. They were only sovereigns. Now that Lin Tian, a saint venerable, had activated the sky-level Emperor weapons of the 13 sects, they knew in an instant that they could not withstand it. If they faced it head-on, they would definitely die. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. "Don't even think about leaving." He did not move. He activated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra and used the weapon control technique to control the 13 sects Emperor weapons to attack. "Humans, stop. We are the experts of the Celestial Court. Hurting us is offending the heavens." "Ah, no!" The surrounding space was completely sealed off by Lin Tian. The 12 middle-aged rulers threatened in terror, and they activated their most powerful abilities to resist. However, it was completely useless. One after another, they were killed. Soon, only one of them remained. Let me go. I am willing to be your slave for all eternity. I will do anything you ask of me. I beg you." This person was trembling. At this moment, he was completely filled with fear as he begged Lin Tian for mercy. "Die!" Lin Tianji only had one word. The 13 monarch weapons slammed down together and destroyed this person's body and soul. For a moment, the place became quiet. So strong. The little Taichu was enveloped by the 9-colored holy light, and its injuries had mostly recovered. Its big eyes blinked, and then it suddenly realized that the holy light outside Lin Tian's body was different from before. "Yeah, this is..." Seeing the 9-colored holy light released by Lin Tian, the little guy was a bit surprised. This was the first time it had seen the 9-colored holy light. In the past, the most colorful power it had seen was only 7 colors. Even in the ancient books, there were no records of the 9-colored holy light. Lin Tian smiled and said, "This is an ancient scripture that I created myself, the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. I haven't used the Heart Sutra of Sun that I cultivated before." The Reincarnation Heart Sutra circulated, and the 9-colored holy light naturally had a powerful healing ability. It continued to flow into the little Taichu's body. After a few dozen breaths, the little guy's injuries were completely healed. "Yeah, you succeeded? It feels so powerful." The little guy was an optimistic person. When it saw Lin Tian again, it completely forgot that it had been severely injured by the 13 rulers. When it heard Lin Tian say that it had succeeded, it couldn't help but feel happy for Lin Tian. Back then, when Lin Tian first started to create the scripture, it knew and had been watching from the side. During that process, Lin Tian had suffered several backlashes and hadn't succeeded. Now, after a period of separation, Lin Tian had succeeded. Moreover, the Reincarnation Heart Sutra, which was intertwined with the nine-colored Holy Soul, made it feel really powerful. The holy power made it feel as if it could encompass everything, as if it could suppress many powers between heaven and earth. Lin Tianyi smiled. The little guy's injuries were completely healed. He rubbed the little guy's head, and with a slight movement of his mind, a seal emerged from his body. He gave it to the little guy to protect itself. It was the heavenly divine weapon that he had seized from the ancient corpses. Yeah, the little guy was even more excited. It kept the seal in its body, shook its wings, and landed on Lin Tian's shoulder. We've been swept into the Xianhuang universe. It landed on Lin Tian's shoulder and said to Lin Tiandao. It had been a long time since they had been swept into this universe. Although the little guy was innocent, it knew where it was. Not long after it was swept into this universe, it learned that it was the Xianhuang universe. Yes, Lin Tian nodded and said, now the Celestial Court is carrying out the great destruction of the Xianhuang universe. This universe should not be able to survive in the end. It will be completely destroyed. We have to ensure that we survive this great destruction. He briefly told the little Taichu some things about the great destruction of the Xianhuang universe. Yeah. The little guy stared, paused, and said, Stupid Tiger was also swept in. I don't know where it is now. After being swept into this world, Lin Tian was looking for it and the white tiger. It was also looking for the white tiger and Lin Tian. Unfortunately, it had been to no avail. Let's look for it together. That guy is very slippery. It should be fine, Lin Tian said with a smile. After being swept into the Xianhuang universe, he had been looking for the little guy and the white tiger. Now that he had found the little guy, he was very happy. Then, after a pause, he looked at the depths of the valley and walked into the valley with the little Taichu. Yeah, why are we going in? The little Taichu stood on Lin Tian's shoulder and saw Lin Tian walking into the valley. It was a little curious, and then said, This valley is a little strange. There are many special ley line patterns mixed together. It had seen Lin Tian use the dragon burial scripture many times. Over time, it had learned some things. Now it could vaguely recognize some of the patterns of heaven and earth and the veins of the terrain in the greater heaven and earth. It had long realized that this valley was not simple. Moreover, previously, it had used the power of the valley's terrain, coupled with the primordial immortal empire and its own tyrannical bloodline, to block the 13 sovereigns for a long time with the cultivation of a Saint King. Lin Tian patted the little guy's little head and said with a smile, There are some good things inside. I'll take them for you. Chapter 2148. The valley was shrouded in a faint mist. Ordinary monks couldn't even use their divine consciousness here, but Lin Tian, who cultivated the dragon burial scripture, wasn't affected at all. He walked forward with little Taichu as if he was walking on flat ground. Clang! After he walked for about 100 feet, earth vein killing light rushed up. It was as if the Qing Saint Land had its own consciousness. It sensed that an alien had entered, so it activated the killing light. Moreover, the killing light wasn't ordinary. It could kill Saint Venerables and even threaten Dominator Realm existences. However, it wasn't a threat to Lin Tian now. The dragon pattern circled around and blocked the killing light. Then he continued to walk toward the center of the valley with little Taichu. Following this, many more earth vein murderous lights soared into the air. They were all very frightening, but they had no effect on Lin Tiandu and were all blocked. In the blink of an eye, 15 minutes passed. He brought little Taichu to the center of the valley. There was a strange tree about 10 feet tall in front of them. Its leaves were three-colored, and its trunk was very thick. No one knew how long it had been growing. There was a fist-sized fruit at the top. It was sparkling with three-colored light and had a strong fragrance. The Qing Saint fruit, Lin Tian brought little Taichu to the strange tree. He picked the Qing Saint fruit and handed it to little Taichu. Refine it. I'll protect you. The Qing Saint fruit contained a very shocking amount of spiritual energy and divine path law fragments. With the little guy's current cultivation, he could reach the Saint Venerable realm from the 9th level of the Saint King realm. What about you? Little Taichu asked him. Lin Tian smiled. I've reached the 4th level of the Saint Venerable realm. This thing is no longer useful to me. Oh! Little Taichu nodded and took the Qing Saint fruit. Under Lin Tian's protection, he began to refine it. The 6-colored holy lights intertwined, and in the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed, and a majestic holy power rippled out in this place. After 7 days, the little fellow finished refining the fruit under Lin Tian's protection. Just as Lin Tian had predicted, he had reached the 1st heavenly layer of Saint Venerate from the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Not bad. Lin Tian smiled. Then, he called out to the little Taichu and walked out of the valley. Soon, they walked out of the valley and headed towards the Death Soul Abyss. Inside the Death Soul Abyss, all kinds of strange worldly powers spread. Some of them could even threaten Dominator rank experts. However, to Lin Tian, who cultivated the Dragon Burial Scripture, it naturally had no effect on him. He quickly walked out of the Death Soul Abyss. Where are we going now? Little Taichu asked while lying on his head. Robbing. Lin Tian said. Currently, the celestial heavens were massacring tens of thousands of living beings in various worlds, using special jade bottles to collect life essence. This world naturally had it as well, and it should be located at the center of this world. He was prepared to go there and snatch the jade bottles. In fact, he actually felt a little uncomfortable when he used the life essence in the jade bottles 2 times. After all, the life essence was collected by the celestial court by slaughtering thousands of creatures. To a certain extent, it was not something clean. However, he quickly shook off the discomfort because he wasn't a pedantic person. The heavenly court had massacred tens of thousands of creatures and used the pristine jade bottle to collect the life essence of tens of thousands of creatures. The owner of the life essence was already dead. In that case, under such circumstances, instead of letting the heavenly court use such life essence, he might as well snatch it and use it. This world was about the same size as the immortal realm of the primordial universe. He was now at the level of a Saint Venerable. He directly opened a void portal and stepped into it with little Taichu. Soon, he arrived at the center of this world. When he arrived at this place, he saw a huge palace in front of him. There were dozens of Saint Kings around it. It was similar to the 2 worlds he had been in before. It was a temporary battle palace left here after the Celestial Court's army entered this world. At the same time, he scanned the interior of the battle palace with his majestic divine thought. There were more than 100 Saint Venerables and 3 Dominator rank auras in the battle palace. There were more than 100 Saint Venerables and 3 Dominator rank auras in the battle palace. Therefore, he did not care about anything else. He walked straight toward the battle palace with little Taichu. He directly attacked and killed the dozens of Saint Kings with a wave of his hand. Then, a 9-colored Saint light sword condensed and split the battle palace into 2. For a moment, there was a whooshing sound. More than 100 Saint Venerables and 3 Dominators flashed out of the battle palace. They immediately found that the dozens of Saint Kings guarding outside the battle palace had been killed. They also saw Lin Tian and little Taichu. Immediately, the group of people was moved. That little thing from the immortal spirit royal family. In the group, the 3 Dominator rank experts looked at little Taichu and could not help but frown. They had neglected Lin Tian. Previously, they had sent 13 Dominator rank experts to chase after little Taichu. But now, the little Taichu had appeared here, but the 13 people who went to chase after it did not return. This gave them a bad feeling. However, very quickly, the expressions of the 3 people became cold again. One of them said, "Kill that human directly. Suppress the little thing of the immortal spirit royal family. After that, ask it about the whereabouts of the 13 people." Clang. The ear-piercing sound of weapons rang out and interrupted the Dominator. Lin Tian held up the 3 Emperor weapons and controlled them with the weapon control technique. The killing light that filled the sky swept toward the 3 Dominator rank experts and more than 100 Saint Venerables. He had no need to show mercy to these cultivators from the Celestial Court. He directly killed them. This kind of killing power was quite terrifying, causing the three rulers' expressions to change. The same was true for the 100 or so holy venerables. "Retreat!" someone shouted. However, the space around them was completely sealed by Lin Tian's 3 immortal spirit royal weapons. These people could not escape at all. They turned around and were drowned by the killing power of the 3 immortal spirit royal weapons. In an instant, blood mist exploded. Among the group of people, more than 100 Saint Venerables were killed in the blink of an eye. Only the 3 Dominator rank experts barely survived, but they were already on the verge of death. After all, Lin Tian's battle prowess was no weaker than an early-stage ruler's when he used the 3 sects piercing heaven-grade Emperor divine weapons. How could an ordinary person withstand such an attack? Even a void heaven realm expert would be shaken. The souls of the 3 Dominator rank experts were still alive. Looking at Lin Tian, they couldn't help but feel shock and fear. This human in front of them, who they didn't care about at all, actually had 3 piercing heaven-grade Emperor weapons. At the same time, the 3 of them guessed that the 13 Dominator rank experts who went to chase the little Taichu had been killed by Lin Tian. That was why the little Taichu had appeared in this place, but there was no news of the 13 Dominator rank experts. Lin Tian did not say anything. With a thought, the 3 immortal spirit royal weapons pressed down again. Terrifying killing light filled the sky. Pooh! Pooh! Amidst 2 miserable cries, 2 of the 3 Dominator rank powerhouses were directly killed by him. Then, he suppressed the other Dominator with the 3 immortal spirit royal weapons and walked toward him. Chapter 2149. What are you trying to do? Suppressed by Lin Tian, the last ruler of the celestial court was terrified. He couldn't help but beg for mercy. Let me go. No one was unafraid of death, especially those who viewed life as nothing more than grass. When faced with death, these people were often many times more unbearable than ordinary people. Lin Tian ignored this person and suppressed him. His majestic divine sense directly entered the other party's sea of consciousness to investigate why this ordinary large world had attracted so many heavenly lords of the celestial court. It was even rumored that ancient ancestor-level existences would be arriving soon. He felt that this ruler of the celestial court, guarding the center of this large world, would know about this matter. His divine sense searched the other party's sea of consciousness. In the blink of an eye, dozens of breaths passed. His expression changed greatly, and even his powerful, holy, venerable physique couldn't help but tremble. In this ruler's sea of consciousness, he saw a figure with 72 snow-white wings on its back. It appeared in a vast mountain range in this large world, causing the experts of the celestial court to be alarmed. Later, it alerted the higher-ups of the celestial court. So many heavenly lords entered this large world one after another. Later, not only were there ancient ancestor-level experts, but even more powerful experts would arrive. However, this wasn't the reason why his expression changed and he trembled. The true reason was that the 72-winged figure was a woman, an extremely beautiful woman. She had an exquisite and flawless face, as if she had walked out of a painting. Her beauty made the surrounding world pale in comparison. "What?" He couldn't help but exclaim, his voice trembling. Apart from the 72 wings on her back, this flawless woman's face, height, and body shape were exactly the same as Wu Yi's. It was as if they were cast from the same mold. For a moment, he couldn't stay calm. 72 snow-white wings on her back, as far as he knew, seemed to be the symbol of the peak existence of the Heaven Protector clan. That woman was from the Heaven Protector clan? Why did she look exactly like Wu Yi? Next to him, little Alpha Primordium looked at his strange expression and couldn't help but be curious. What's wrong? Lin Tian raised his hand and used his consciousness to imprint the scene he saw in the Master's Sea of Consciousness on his palm for the little Taichu to see. Instantly, little Taichu's expression changed and his eyes widened. The little fellow's eyes were filled with shock and even a little stupefied. At this moment, the man and the beast could no longer remain calm. After more than 10 breaths, Lin Tian was the first to regain his senses. He slapped the ruler of the celestial court to death, then took a deep breath to calm himself down. Let's go take a look at that mountain range. He was certain that the woman with the 72 wings of light was definitely not Wu Yi. However, she had the exact same appearance as Wu Yi. This tied up all of his attention, and he decided to take a look at that mountain range. It was hard for him not to care about such matters. I want to go. Little Taichu nodded vigorously. He liked Lin Tian and Wu Yi the most. The Celestial Emperor and his mother, whom he had never met, were even ranked behind them. Now that he had encountered such a situation, he was naturally very concerned and clenched his little paws. Lin Tianyi grabbed the jade bottle that the Celestial Court used to collect life essence in this place. Then, he tore open a void portal and left with little Taichu. Soon, they arrived in front of a vast mountain range. As far as the eye could see, the mountain range in front of him took up an unknown amount of space. Inside, immortal divine trees were flourishing. Surprisingly, this was the place where the 72-winged woman had wandered in the sea of consciousness of the previous dominator rank expert. When he arrived, he did not hesitate and directly entered the mountain range with little Taichu. In the mountain range, the branches and leaves of the ancient trees were so dense that they covered the scorching sun in the sky. Sunlight seeped through the gaps between the branches and leaves, leaving streaks of light spots on the ground of the mountain. He entered the mountain range with little Taichu and walked towards the depths. Not long after, he felt an astonishing pressure of the heavenly ascension realm in front of him. Moreover, there was more than one of them. The celestial emperors of the celestial court. A glint flashed in his eyes. While he and little Taichu concealed their essence, energy, and spirit, they increased their speed and approached the front at an even faster speed. Soon, he concealed his and little Taichu's essence, energy, and spirit. They crossed tens of thousands of feet in the mountain range. Suddenly, there were many halos in the space in front of them. A dozen figures were in front of them and were stepping into a spatial crack in front of them. It was as if there was another large space behind the crack. 72-winged woman. Is she the pinnacle of that clan? However, I heard that there are no women among the pinnacle of that clan. Moreover, many of the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals who discovered her were killed. Why? What's going on? I don't know. This matter is still being reported to the higher-ups. It should reach the ears of the current pinnacle of that clan very soon. We'll know when the time comes. Now, we have to confirm that she's still in this world. This is an order from the Lord Ancient Ancestor. After that, some of the Lord Ancient Ancestors will come one after another. After that, the strongest of that clan will most likely come as well. Ziji, now we just have to do what we have to do and confirm that she's still in this world. Don't worry about anything else for the time being. According to the heavenly generals who were lucky enough to survive after discovering that person, after she stepped into this spatial crack, they hope that she's still in it. Previously, another group of heavenly masters had already entered. After we enter, we'll meet up with them. Be careful. The dozen or so heavenly masters spoke in low voices as they stepped into the spatial crack. Their expressions were very serious. Soon, the dozen or so heavenly masters disappeared into the spatial crack. At this moment, Lin Tian walked over from afar with little Taichu and looked at the spatial crack. He had an extremely terrifying ancient corpse with him. Controlling that ancient corpse, he was not afraid of ordinary heavenly masters at all. However, he still avoided the dozen or so heavenly masters for the time being. He had come to find out the true identity of the 72-winged woman and find out why she had the same appearance as Wu Yi. Now was not the time to act rashly and alert the enemy. He brought little Taichu with him and stopped in place for dozens of breaths. Then he stepped into the spatial crack in front of him. The next moment, they appeared in a new space. Looking at the new space in front of him, Lin Tian could not help but be shocked. His pupils could not help but shrink. Chapter 2150. Behind the void fissure, the space was dark and gloomy. Blood-colored vines were everywhere, like ancient pythons. Moreover, on these vines, there was a human cocoon at regular intervals, exuding a very strong yin qi. The entire space was completely filled with these vines and the human cocoons on them. Lin Tion's eyelids couldn't help but twitch. Originally, he thought that behind the Void Fissure would be a super spiritual territory filled with spiritual chi, but he didn't expect the scene behind the Void Fissure to be like this. Those human cocoons seemed to be sucked onto the vines by an external force with people inside. This scene was similar to what he had seen in the depths of the celestial palace of death of the extreme Yin Temple. However, back then, in the depths of the celestial palace of death of the extreme Yin Temple, it was a strange black fog that covered the creatures within and turned them into human cocoons. Here, it was a cocoon that bound the creatures and turned them into human cocoons, as if it was nurturing something. Moreover, the aura exuded by the human cocoons here was far from what the armored soldiers in the celestial palace of death could compare to. Beside him, little Taichu also opened his eyes wide, shocked by the scene before him. Boom! Suddenly, an astonishing wave of saint energy came from ahead, and a hurricane swept through. Lin Tian looked ahead and immediately led little Taichu in that direction, still concealing their auras. Soon, he led little Taichu in the direction of the saint energy and walked far away in this dark space. Once again, he saw the dozen heaven lords of the celestial court, as well as the other dozen unfamiliar heaven lords. In total, there were 27 of them, besieged by a group of humanoid creatures with black wings on their backs. There were many humanoid creatures, more than 100 of them. At the same time, they were intertwined with the auras of life and death. Each of them had blood-red eyes and were extremely ferocious. Moreover, the aura they exuded was also very oppressive, not at all inferior to that of an ordinary divine master expert. The 27 heaven lords were forced into a corner and were momentarily unable to resist. Moreover, most importantly, some of these humanoid creatures with black wings on their backs were actually attacking each other, as if they had no self-awareness at all. All they had was the most primitive of bestial instincts. He was moved. What exactly were these? To the side, the little Taichu's eyes widened even more. Looking at the hundreds of black-winged humanoid life forms in front of him, he couldn't help but shrink his neck. These black-winged life forms were truly frightening. Crack! 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 A crisp sound rang out. Within this space, some of the human cocoons on the blood-colored vines trembled and then split open. Humanoid creatures with black wings on their backs walked out from within. When they first appeared, their bodies were covered in blood-colored mucus. However, this mucus quickly disappeared. After a brief pause, they attacked the 27 Celestial Court Heavenly Masters. Some even attacked the other black-winged humanoid creatures. This scene caused Lin Tian, who was hiding his presence in the distance, to be greatly alarmed. These terrifying black-winged humanoid creatures had walked out from those human cocoons. Those densely packed cocoons were actually nurturing such a terrifying monster. Someone is creating these monsters? Lin Tian's pupils constricted. Without a doubt, everything in this space was man-made and definitely not formed naturally. Moreover, these strange creatures with black wings on their backs were definitely deliberately created by someone. This caused his heart to fiercely throb. Someone was actually artificially creating a heavenly master-level combat force. How crazy was this? What kind of method was this? At the same time, how cruel was this? This was because he could imagine that before these terrifying black-winged life forms were forged into their current forms, they definitely didn't come here willingly to be transformed into human cocoons. Instead, someone had forcibly suppressed these life forms and forcibly transformed them. Roar! Ruthless roars reverberated. Suddenly, one of the black-winged life forms besieging the 27 Celestial Court Heavenly Masters let out a painful roar. Then, with a poof, they exploded on the spot. Following that, a few other life forms also exploded on their own, turning into black pus and blood. This caused Lin Tian's expression to change again. These strange life forms were clearly incomparably ferocious just a moment ago, like peerless ferocious beasts, but in the next moment, they actually died on their own. After that, from time to time, black-winged life forms would walk out of the human cocoons. They were incomparably ferocious, and their combat strength was comparable to that of a heavenly master. However, after these black-winged life forms walked out of the human cocoons, most of them would collapse within a few breaths. At most, they could only survive for a few dozen breaths. Their flesh shells can't support the explosive power within their bodies. His eyesight was extraordinary. After a moment of contemplation, he discovered the reason. Although these black-winged life forms were terrifying, their flesh shells were far from being able to support the power within their bodies. Therefore, it was difficult for them to survive in this world for too long. Boom! In front of him, heavenly master level Saint energy surged. Human cocoons continued to break open in this space, and black-winged life forms walked out of them. They attacked the 27 celestial court heavenly masters who hadn't concealed their auras, causing the 27 celestial court heavenly masters to fall into a more and more difficult situation. However, although these black-winged life forms were terrifying, they couldn't survive for too long. Although their numbers made the 27 celestial court heavenly masters somewhat difficult, they weren't able to kill the heavenly masters of the celestial court. Damn it! What are these things? Although these heavenly masters hadn't been forced to the point where their lives were in danger, their expressions were ugly. There was anger, but more than that, there was shock. In this space, in this place, there was actually someone who could create heavenly master-level combat strength like this. Roars! Ruthless roars reverberated in the air. Within this space, more human cocoons broke open, and black-winged life forms walked out one after another. In the blink of an eye, there were more than 1,000 black-winged life forms in this space at the same time, causing the 27 celestial court heavenly masters who had entered this space to tremble slightly. Lin Tian was in the distance, using the perfect world to completely conceal his aura and that of the little Taichu. At this time, when he looked at the scene in front of him, he couldn't help but tremble slightly. There were 1,000 black-winged life forms, and each of them was comparable to heavenly master-level combat strength. Although they couldn't exist for too long, it was still very frightening. Buzz! Suddenly, a holy light emerged from the center of this space, intertwining with light and holiness. In a circular light wave, it spread out in 360 degrees. Then, as this holy light spread out, everywhere it passed, the blood-colored vines, human cocoons, and black-winged life forms disappeared immediately, all of them turning into dust. This originally dark space suddenly became bright in an instant, and the gloomy atmosphere from before was completely gone. In fact, there was even a hint of celestial chi. Such an unforeseen event caused the 27 heavenly masters to be shocked, and they all trembled fiercely. At the same time, Lin Tian's expression changed again. There were many black-winged life forms, and each of them was comparable to a heavenly master-level expert. The blood-colored vines were also very frightening, and there were also many of them covering the entire space. However, they were all wiped out in an instant by the holy light just now, and even made this space, which was originally intertwined with a gloomy atmosphere, brighten up. This scene was somewhat frightening. Most importantly, just now, the little Taichu and the 27 celestial court heavenly masters were all affected by the holy light, but they were all fine and were not affected in the slightest. It was as if they were just swept by ordinary sunlight, as if the holy light had its own consciousness and only targeted the blood-colored vines, human cocoons, and black-winged life forms. Chapter 2151. The woman had 72 wings of light on her back. They were snow-white and filled with a holy aura. Her face was flawless. Is it still there? Was she the one who released that holy radiance? What should we do now? What should we do? Should we retreat? The 27 celestial court heavenly lords were all moved by the sight of the woman. They were all heavenly lords, transcending heaven-level existences. They were usually high and mighty, but now they couldn't help but feel their hearts palpitate in front of the woman in front of them. The 72 wings on her back were too dazzling. They were exactly the same as those of the celestial protectors. Within the celestial protectors, those with 72 wings were truly supreme existences. At the same time, Lin Tian's gaze naturally fell on the woman in the distance. He couldn't look away for a moment. The woman was dressed in white, and her flawless face was exactly the same as Wu Yi's. Even her figure and height were the same. Although he had seen this woman in the consciousness of a sovereign of the celestial court before, he couldn't help but be stunned when he saw her with his own eyes. Beside him, little Taichu was also staring at the woman in white. Just like Lin Tianyi, he was also stunned. The woman had 72 wings of light on her back. Although there were many wings, they didn't stand out in the slightest. Instead, they made her seem even more beautiful and noble. The space seemed to have lost all its luster because of her presence. She came from the center of the space and naturally saw the 27 celestial court, heavenly lords, Lin Tian, and little Taichu. Her gaze swept across the 27 celestial court, heavenly lords, and landed on Lin Tian. A faint light flashed in her eyes. In the next moment, she seemed to have sensed some other aura from Lin Tian's body. Her perfect body involuntarily trembled, and in the next instant, she appeared beside Lin Tian without a sound. This speed was too fast, to the point that it could no longer be explained by speed. Lin Tian couldn't help but be shocked, because the opponent suddenly appeared in front of him, and he couldn't help but stumble backwards. Holy light flowed around the woman's body, and the space around her seemed to come alive, stabilizing Lin Tian's retreating figure. She looked at Lin Tian without blinking, and a variety of emotions appeared in her originally calm eyes. There was surprise, anticipation, worry, and guilt. It was only after a few breaths that she opened her mouth and asked, "Is she all right?" It was to the extent that there were traces of tears in her eyes. Lin Tian was visibly moved. Then, he instinctively knew that the she this woman was referring to was Wu Yi. He couldn't help but take a step forward and ask, "Who are you? What does it have to do with her?" He knew very well that this woman with 72 light wings on her back was an extremely terrifying existence. However, at this time, looking at her perfect face that was exactly the same as Wu Yi's, he directly ignored her strength and directly asked about her relationship with Wu Yi. He came here to find this woman because of this. "Yeah, what does it have to do with Yi?" Little Taichu couldn't help but ask from the side. "Yi, what's her name?" The woman muttered to herself. Her voice was gentle, as if she was thinking about something. There was a deep gentleness in her complicated eyes. Rumble! Suddenly, the space shook violently. A black door appeared, and an old man stepped out from it. The old man was dressed in a golden robe, and his eyes were as deep as the universe. Behind him, 72 purple wings shone brightly. This scene caused Lin Tian's expression to change immediately. 72 wings. The Heaven Protectors had actually sensed such a supreme existence, and she had arrived so quickly. At the same time, the 27 Heaven Masters of the Celestial Court were also shocked. They hurriedly bowed to the old man and said, "Sir." They didn't bow to the woman with 72 wings because it was said that the woman had killed a group of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals of the Celestial Court. They didn't know who the woman was and didn't dare to rashly approach her. The golden-robed old man's eyes were deep. He didn't care about the 27 Heaven Masters at all, as if he didn't see them. His gaze paused on Lin Tian for a moment. He could clearly see Lin Tian's reincarnation constitution. A cold light flashed in his eyes, but he didn't attack Lin Tian for the time being. His gaze fell on the white-robed woman and said, "As expected, you're not completely dead yet. Divine Key." Lin Tian heard this and looked at the white-robed woman. Divine Key was this woman's name? The woman tilted her head and looked at the golden-robed old man. "Elder." Lin Tian's eyes flashed when he heard this. The woman was indeed from the Heaven Protector clan. The 27 Heaven Masters of the Celestial Court couldn't help but tremble. Although the woman had 72 wings of light behind her, which was the absolute symbol of the Heaven Protector clan, she had killed a group of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals of the Celestial Court. Therefore, even though they saw the woman's 72 wings of light, They weren't sure if she was from the Heaven Protector clan. But now, when they heard the woman address the golden-robed old man, the uncertainty in their hearts disappeared. The golden-robed old man's eyes were deep. He stood in the sky like a god and snorted coldly. He looked at the woman for a few breaths and said, "Suppress the reincarnation constitution and follow me back to the clan." He looked at the woman and said, "Only a few people in the clan know about what happened back then. So much time has passed, and you've been severely punished. Let's just forget about the mistakes you made back then. Follow me back to the clan. With the supreme treasure of the clan, you can be truly reborn. You'll still be the first heavenly lady of the past." Lin Tian's heart jumped fiercely. First heavenly lady? This was the title the Heaven Protector clan gave this woman back then? At the same time, he was even more shocked when the golden-robed old man said the word reborn. This woman wasn't truly alive? He carefully sized up the woman before him again. Only now did he discover that the other party actually didn't have a physical body. At the same time, she didn't seem like a soul either. This type of feeling was hard for him to understand, unable to understand this woman's current state. "I want to hand him over to you all." Looking at the golden-robed old man, the woman shook her head and said, "Elder, please stop. Don't continue. All creatures are born. They grow. They have the right to live." The golden-robed old man snorted coldly. The entire space trembled intensely, as if it was going to collapse at any moment. "So much time has passed, yet you still haven't woken up? Back then, your hands were soaked in blood. Yet now, you actually say these words to this old man? That is my crime. It cannot be erased. Even 10,000 deaths won't be enough to atone for it." The woman said. She looked at the golden-robed old man and said, "Just stop, elder. Don't continue down this wrong path. Let the clansmen return to how they were before." The golden-robed old man's eyes immediately turned cold. A majestic pressure immediately spread out. Stubborn and unrepentant. Boom! Chapter 2152. Majestic sacred light gushed out from the golden-robed elder's body. This vast space was completely frozen by his aura in an instant. Lin Tian felt that he couldn't move in an instant. The other party wasn't targeting him, but the woman in white. However, this aura still caused him to be unable to move. His expression changed, and his body trembled uncontrollably. He couldn't find any words to describe this aura. It was no longer something that could be described as powerful or terrifying. At the same time, the 27 heaven masters of the celestial court were also trembling. They were stunned by this aura. This was the first time they had seen a top existence from the Heaven Protector clan in action. Just the aura alone was enough to make them, heaven-reaching realm experts, tremble in fear. At this moment, they were like Lin Tianyi, unable to move. The air was constantly annihilated. The holy light, mixed with cold, killing intent, fell in front of the white-clothed woman in the blink of an eye. However, in the next moment, the golden-robed elder's saint light disappeared as though it had evaporated into thin air. The woman did not seem to move at all. The space instantly returned to normal. At this time, Lin Tian and the others could once again move freely. "Give up, elder. You know my ability. Back then, all of you combined could barely fight me to a draw. If it weren't for some special reasons, you wouldn't have been able to kill me." The white-clothed woman spoke in a calm voice. There wasn't a trace of arrogance in her voice. Instead, there was a hint of sadness. "Compared to the past, even if I'm not as strong as I used to be, how can you deal with me alone?" Lin Tian's expression changed when he heard this. His saint body, which was comparable to a sovereign expert, couldn't help but tremble. He could guess that all of you the woman was referring to was the 72 winged existences of the Heaven Protector clan. Back then, all of the 72 winged existences of the Heaven Protector clan combined could barely fight her to a draw. Back then, this woman was actually so strong when she was at her peak. At the same time, he was moved by another point. This woman was killed by the Heaven Protector clan back then? What kind of state was she in now? On the other side, the 27 celestial court masters of the celestial court naturally understood the meaning behind the woman's words, and their faces paled just like Lin Tion's, and they couldn't help but tremble. The golden-robed elder stood in the sky. His deep eyes became even colder. At the same time, there was a thick chill in them. Of course, he knew how strong this woman was in the past. Her cultivation talent couldn't be described with words. She was once the pride of their Heaven Protector clan and was revered as the #1 fairy. She was the #1 expert of their clan since ancient times. However, the pride of their Heaven Protector clan had betrayed their clan for some reason. Countless years have passed since then. Do you think this old one hasn't improved, that I still have the same strength as before? His voice became cold. The 72 purple wings behind him flapped, and an even more terrifying saint aura rushed out. It was impossible to describe how powerful it was. His saint aura filled this small world. This small world seemed to have turned into a weapon in an instant, becoming a part of his body. Every inch of space seemed to have come alive. Huge black holes appeared, devouring the air and everything. At this moment, all the Daos in the world trembled and worshipped him. As soon as this aura appeared, Lin Tian found it difficult to move again. Even his spirit felt a sharp pain, as if it would shatter in the next moment. In fact, at this moment, he couldn't even move his lips. Next to him, little Taichu was the same. Just like him, it was difficult for him to move. However, in the next moment, this pressure disappeared in an instant. He and little Taichu could move at the same time. In this space, the aura of the golden-robed elder was completely wiped out in the blink of an eye. Those terrifying black holes also disappeared in an instant. Go back, elder. Don't kill anymore. The path that our people have been taking is really wrong. The woman spoke. There was a faint sadness in her voice. A look of surprise flashed in the golden-robed elder's deep eyes. Then, they became even colder. Very good. Even in this state, you still have such ability. With a Hong sound, the 72 purple wings behind him shook again. Heaven and earth roared. Terrifying, killing radiance pressed down, collapsing the heavens and splitting the earth. How good would it be if you could return to the clan? Unfortunately, you're still so stubborn, so I'll completely disappear here. With this old one's current strength, I will not disgrace you by burying your last trace of spiritual consciousness. A supreme murderess will emerge, and this world submitted to it. Behind him, a huge light shadow appeared. Just like before, it was a 100 feet tall, 72-winged Saint Shadow. As soon as it appeared, it attacked and pressed down on the woman in white. The woman's expression did not change. There was a trace of loneliness in her eyes. The 72 light wings behind her flapped gently, and a circle of snow-white light spread out. It was sacred and pure, and it spread out toward the golden-robed elder. With a whoosh, the 72-winged Saint Shadow of the golden-robed elder was crushed. Then, the pure holy light did not decrease in momentum. It landed on the elder's body, and with a bang, it sent him flying into a spatial crack that suddenly appeared behind him. Divine Key! A furious roar came from behind the spatial crack. In the next moment, the spatial crack closed, and the golden-robed elder disappeared. The space returned to its previous appearance and became bright once again. The destructive aura that had appeared because of the golden-robed old man had disappeared without a trace at this moment. Lin Tian could not help but tremble. The indescribably terrifying golden-robed elder, a 72-winged existence of the Heaven Protector clan, was so easily defeated by the woman in white. And this woman was now only a trace of spiritual consciousness. Her combat strength was far from her peak state. If that was the case, how powerful was she when she was at her peak? At the side, little Taichu's eyes widened in shock. On the other side, the faces of the 27 transcending heaven lords of the celestial court were all pale. Their limbs trembled, and their faces and eyes could not help but show horror and fear at this time. Then, in the next moment, whooshing sounds could be heard. Without the slightest pause or hesitation, the 27 people all rushed out of this space at the fastest speed possible. In the blink of an eye, they had traveled thousands of miles. The woman with 72 snow-white wings on her back was so beautiful that it was somewhat unreal. She did not pay attention to the 27 people at all, as if she had not seen them from the beginning. She let the 27 people leave. Her gaze descended onto Lin Tian once more, and it carried a mix of guilt and anticipation that was difficult to conceal. Can you tell me about her? Is she happy? Is she happy? Chapter 2153. Lin Tian was stunned by the woman's strength and only managed to calm down after several breaths. He originally wanted to immediately ask about the relationship between this woman and Wu Yi, but facing her question and seeing the look in her eyes, he didn't ask for the time being. Very good. He knew that the she this woman was referring to was Wu Yi, so he briefly told her about Wu Yi. The woman listened very seriously, almost forgetting everything in the world. When she heard Lin Tian mention that he and Wu Yi had a child, her eyes became misty and tears fell. She already has a child. Facing the golden-robed elder who also had 72 wings, she was very calm, but at this time, her voice was choked with sobs. Lin Tian looked at the other party and could not help but be moved. The other party was clearly just a wisp of spiritual consciousness and did not have a physical body, but it was actually able to produce tears. What kind of realm was this? And why was she like this? When she mentioned Wu Yi and heard him talk about Wu Yi, there was a mixture of guilt, happiness, and sadness. With this thought and these doubts, his heart suddenly moved. At this moment, looking at the woman's appearance that was similar to Wu Yi's, a guess appeared in his heart. Could it be? Looking at her, his eyes were filled with incomparable shock. The woman looked at Lin Tian and guessed at this time that Lin Tian thought of something. She asked, What's your name? Lin Tian. Lin Tian on Dao. Lin Tian, you have the potential to change the world. Take good care of her, care for her, and love her. Behind the woman, her 72 wings bloomed with holy light, and a wisp of pure holy light entered Lin Tian's body. Tears welled up again, and her eyes were filled with unconcealable sadness. Don't mention anything about me to her. I am not qualified to be a mother. As soon as she finished speaking, her figure disappeared in an instant, disappearing before Lin Tian's eyes. Senior! Lin Tian couldn't help but shout. He spread out his divine sense, but there was no trace of the woman's aura in this space. Then he was stunned. His previous guess was correct. The former first heavenly daughter was Wu Yi's mother. Little Taichu was also stunned. He never expected to see Wu Yi's biological mother here. A man and a beast stood in this space. A gust of wind blew past, and both of them were stunned. After another dozen or so breaths, Lin Tian was the first to regain his senses. Ever since he had met Wu Yi, he had never thought about Wu Yi's background. Now that he had met Wu Yi's mother in this place and learned about her identity and other things, he was really confused. Back then, the other party had been hunted down and killed by the Heaven Protectors. Now, only a sliver of spiritual consciousness remained. How could this be? And why was he being hunted down by the Heaven Protectors? She was clearly the #1 expert of the Heaven Protector clan. And who was Wu Yi's father? How could he gain the favor of the #1 holy maiden of the Heaven Protector clan? Back then, when she was being hunted down by the Heaven Protector clan, where was that person? Could it be that he was killed by the Heaven Protector clan like her? For a moment, he was really confused. His whole person was stunned. Will Yi's mother be okay? Little Taichu's voice sounded. His eyes were filled with worry because he knew that the woman's condition was not good just now. Lin Tian also became worried when he heard this. Some supreme experts could actually reconstruct their physical body with just a sliver of spiritual consciousness. However, Wu Yi's mother did not reconstruct her physical body. It seemed that for some reason, it was difficult for her to do so. If this continued, her spiritual consciousness would not exist in this world for too long and would slowly dissipate. Where did she go? She asked him not to tell Wu Yi about her. How could he do that? Wu Yi was picked up by the previous generation's Misty Peak Master when she was an infant and raised by him. She did not know who her parents were and had never mentioned or thought about them. Even so, he knew that Wu Yi must have hoped to see her parents one day. How could he not tell her about her mother's condition? Later on, when he returned to the primordial universe and told Wu Yi about her mother, she completely disappeared because she could not reconstruct her physical body. How sad must Wu Yi have been? At this moment, he was a little anxious. He only wanted to find her and do everything possible to help her reconstruct her physical body. That was Wu Yi's mother. Moreover, he could feel her love for Wu Yi. She must also want to see Wu Yi. He could even clearly imagine that she must have sent Wu Yi away when she was still an infant because she was being hunted down by the Heaven Protector clan. The purpose of doing that was to ensure Wu Yi's safety. However, no matter how worried and anxious he was, there was nothing he could do now. He did not know where she had gone. For a moment, he was stunned again. After that, he and the little Taichu stayed in this space, thinking about many things. From time to time, he would be in a daze. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. On this day, at noon, he completely calmed down. He looked at the sky and took a deep breath. It will not disappear, he muttered to himself. He firmly believed that the other party would find a way to return. That wisp of spiritual consciousness would not dissipate. She was Wu Yi's mother. Little guy, let's leave, he called out to the little Taichu. He believed that Wu Yi's mother would be fine. He had to continue to become stronger and survive the great destruction of the mysterious yellow universe. He had to return to the primordial universe and tell Wu Yi everything that had happened today. After that, when the other party returned, he would definitely be able to see her again. He would see her together with Wu Yi. The mother and daughter would definitely be reunited. The little Taichu followed beside him. Soon, they stepped out of the space and appeared in the outside world. After walking out of the space, he looked back. At this time, he could not help but wonder what was going on in this space. Who was forging a transcending heaven realm warrior in this place? What was the purpose of doing this? Was it done by the Heaven Protector clan? He muttered to himself. Wu Yi's mother had the divine key. She seemed to have entered that space to purify everything inside. It seemed that she had known about this place for a long time. The fact that she was able to lead her here made him think that everything in that space was most likely done by the Heaven Protector clan. However, for some reason, they seemed to have abandoned that place, and no member of that clan was guarding that place anymore. While thinking about this, he and the little Taichu walked out of the mountain range. Soon, they walked out of the mountain range. Chapter 2154. 27 figures, each of them exuding the power of a divine master. They were the 27 heaven masters of the celestial court. At the very least, we'll suppress you, one of them said coldly. A day ago, they had fled from that space out of fear of the divine key. However, they did not immediately leave this world. Instead, they hid near this mountain range, waiting to see what would happen next. This was because they were not sure if the 72-winged, golden-robed old man would return. If he found that they had all fled, they would be in great trouble. After that, they waited until now, but did not see the 72-winged, golden-robed old man return. Then, on this day, they saw Lin Tian and little Taichu walk out of that space. After observing in the dark for a long time, they did not sense the aura of the divine key at all. They guessed that the divine key had already left this world and directly revealed itself at this time. Lin Tian was a reincarnated being. If they suppressed Lin Tian and sent him to the heavenly guardians, they would be able to obtain great benefits. Yeah, you. Little Taichu was both angry and shocked. He never thought that these 27 people would actually ambush him and Lin Tian outside. As for those people, they were all heaven-reaching experts. Right now, it was impossible for Lin Tian and it to block heaven-reaching experts. It's okay. Lin Tian naturally knew what the little guy was worried about at this time. He said so to the little guy, and then glanced at the 27 heaven masters. I'm in a very bad mood right now. I'll kill all of you to vent my anger. As soon as he finished speaking, he summoned the immortal Emperor Pagoda and quickly took out the ancient corpse. Then his spirit stepped out and entered the ancient corpse. Boom! He controlled the ancient corpse with his spirit. With a move of his mind, a wisp of saint power gushed out from the ancient corpse. In an instant, it caused the sky to tremble. Yeah, Little Taichu immediately widened his eyes. At the same time, the 27 heaven masters of the celestial court were also greatly shocked. The aura that Lin Tian emitted while controlling the ancient corpse made their spirits tremble involuntarily. They immediately felt the threat of death. Looking at the ancient corpse controlled by Lin Tian's spirit, these people were shocked and angry at the same time. They never thought that Lin Tian would have such a terrifying ancient corpse. Its aura was too tyrannical. Lin Tian used his soul to control the ancient corpse and put his physical body into the immortal Emperor Pagoda. He moved the immortal Emperor Pagoda to Little Taichu's side and let Little Taichu keep an eye on the immortal Emperor Pagoda. Then, using a gentle force, he sent Little Taichu about 10,000 zhang away. Slaughter all of you. He wasn't in a good mood right now. How could he be courteous to the heaven masters of the celestial court? He used his spiritual consciousness to control the ancient corpse and appeared in front of one of the heaven masters in a flash. Then he waved his fist and smashed it down. With a loud bang, the void in all directions instantly shattered. The divine master summoned his saint power to defend himself in horror, but it was shattered in an instant. Then Lin Tian's fist, which was controlled by the ancient corpse, landed firmly on his body. Poof! Blood splattered everywhere. This powerful heaven master's physical body was instantly shattered. Only his spirit was barely preserved. With a look of horror, he retreated at an extremely fast speed. As he retreated, he reformed his physical body. However, Lin Tian didn't give him a chance. Using his spiritual consciousness to control the ancient corpse, he appeared in front of the escaping spirit in the blink of an eye. Without saying anything or making any unnecessary movements, he waved his fist again and smashed it down fiercely. Poof! Another soft sound. Under this tyrannical punch, the spirit of this heaven master of the celestial court was directly shattered. He was completely dead. Of the 27 heaven masters of the celestial court, only 26 were left. They couldn't help but tremble. In the blink of an eye, one of them was killed by Lin Tian. They didn't even have time to rescue him. Worship the Emperor Divine Weapon and attack together. With just a corpse, he can't possibly block all of our combined attacks. Someone shouted coldly. The 26 people were all heaven masters of the celestial court. They were all very powerful, and each of them had an Emperor Divine Weapon. At this time, with a rumbling sound, the 26 people took out their Emperor Divine Weapons one after another. The power of each Emperor Divine Weapon was extremely tyrannical. Moreover, after this, the 26 people's bodies were illuminated with Tao light. All of them supported their divine Tao laws at this time. Don't kill him. Hold back at the crucial moment. Keep him alive and bring him to the lords above. One of them said, "Understood." Another person said, "Immediately." The 26 people activated their Emperor Divine Weapons with all their might. At the same time, their divine Tao laws also surged and pressed down on Lin Tian together. This kind of killing intent was extremely terrifying. It completely sealed the surrounding space, leaving Lin Tian no way out. Lin Tian controlled the ancient corpse with his spirit. His eyes were cold. Without any unnecessary movements, he directly waved his fist. Boom! As his fist pressed down, the entire space shook violently, and a destructive aura intertwined. With a sizzling sound, the divine power of the 26 people was annihilated in an instant. Their Emperor Divine Weapons were all sent flying and cracked. How can this be? The expressions of the 26 people changed. They had summoned their Emperor Weapons with all their strength, and even used their divine laws to attack. However, the outcome was actually like this. They were actually shattered by the ancient corpse controlled by Lin Tian in an instant. Swoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Lin Tian did not care about the shock on these people's faces. Using his spirit to control the ancient corpse, he directly moved. With a step, he closed in on one of the people and directly punched out. The strength of his punch was even stronger than before. With a boom, it was as if a sacred drum had been beaten. It was also as if a shocking thunderbolt had exploded, and the void collapsed. The Heaven Master who faced this punch immediately trembled. His expression changed drastically. He raised his Emperor Divine weapon and then retreated. However, Lin Tian's punch was too powerful. The terrifying fist aura actually sealed the space around him. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. Because of his terrible mood, Lin Tian did not even think about snatching the Emperor Divine weapon away. His fist landed on the opponent's Emperor Divine weapon and directly smashed it into pieces. Then, the fist aura did not diminish. In the next moment, it landed on the opponent's body. With a poof, the opponent was directly smashed into pieces. Transcending heaven-grade blood splattered across the sky. Damn it! This person's spirit had not been destroyed. Shocked and angry, he quickly retreated, distancing himself from the ancient corpse controlled by Lin Tian's spirit. Lin Tian looked at this person's spirit. With a single step, he arrived in front of the opponent. Die! He punched out again. The fist aura was so fast and fierce that the other 20 or so Heaven Masters did not even have time to help. This person's spirit was directly smashed into pieces, causing him to completely disappear. This scene caused the other 25 Heaven Masters to tremble involuntarily. Go! Retreat! Chapter 2155. The 25 Heavenly Lords were not ordinary people, and their eyesight was not ordinary. At this time, they truly understood how terrifying the ancient corpse controlled by Lin Tian was. Even if they took out their Emperor weapons and joined forces, they were still no match for it. Whoosh! 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 They were very fast, and in the blink of an eye, they had rushed far away. Lin Tian controlled the ancient corpse with his spiritual soul. His eyes were mixed with coldness. He took a step forward and shook the ancient corpse with a trace of saint power, completely sealing the surrounding space. Boom! Without any superfluous words or movements, he directly punched out. The fist pressed down, and the surroundings shook violently, shattering everything. Such a tyrannical punch was extremely frightening. It was as if there was a destructive fist storm that swept past. For a moment, blood splattered everywhere. The 25 Heavenly Lords of the Celestial Court were sent flying, each of them coughing up blood. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He controlled the ancient corpse and rushed up again. He appeared in front of one of the Heavenly Lords and punched out. This punch was terrifying and violent. It landed directly on the Heavenly Lord's body, and with a puff, it shattered. Then, he controlled the ancient corpse, grabbed the Heavenly Lord's spiritual soul, and tore it into pieces. He raised his hand and grabbed the Heavenly Lord's Emperor weapon, erasing the mark on it. Then, he looked at the other 24 Heavenly Lords. Without the slightest hesitation, he took a step forward, raised his fist, and punched out. His fist surged violently. It was as if a destructive fist had turned into a world-shaking ocean, shattering everything. The 24 Heavenly Lords resisted with all their strength. However, in the face of Lin Tian, who controlled the ancient corpse, they could not stop him at all. Damn it! Stop! Ah! No! The 24 Heavenly Lords used all kinds of magical powers and great arts. They also activated their Emperor weapons and Divine Tao laws. However, in the face of the ancient corpse controlled by Lin Tian's spiritual soul, they could not resist at all. 21 of them were killed in succession. Out of the 27 people, only 3 were left. Looking at the ancient corpse that Lin Tian was controlling, they couldn't help but be shocked. Moreover, at this moment, the 3 of them were somewhat regretful. They regretted staying in this place to deal with Lin Tian. They didn't expect that Lin Tian would have such a terrifying ancient corpse. They simply couldn't block it. Amazing! In the distance, little Taichu hugged the immortal Emperor Pagoda and looked at Lin Tian's ancient corpse with wide eyes. In the blink of an eye, 24 of the 27 transcending heaven realm Heavenly Lords have been killed by Lin Tian. Lin Tian controlled the ancient corpse with a cold expression. During this process, he obtained more than 10 Emperor weapons. The others were all destroyed. At this moment, he was closing in on the last 3. Right at this moment, divine splendor suddenly appeared in the distance. It was extremely intimidating, making him stop and look in that direction. Over there, in his field of vision, an old man appeared. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at this place. The old man was dressed in a gray robe. His hair was brown, and he exuded an extremely terrifying aura. Looking at this person, he controlled the ancient corpse with his spiritual soul. Immediately, his pupils contracted. The aura exuded by this old man was as strong as the aura of the 9 celestial court ancient ancestors he saw in the void realm. Lord Ancient Ancestor. At this place, the 3 heaven realm heavenly lords who were still alive were pleasantly surprised. Looking at the old man who suddenly appeared, it was as if they had grasped at a life-saving straw in a turbulent torrent. The 3 of them quickly went forward and bowed deeply. Then, they reported everything about the 72-winged, golden-robed old man and the divine key. Then, they mentioned Lin Tian again. He has entered that terrifying ancient corpse with his spiritual soul. We are no match for him. Please, please help us, Lord Ancient Ancestor. The 3 of them were all reaching heaven realm existences, but at this time, they were very respectful in front of this gray-robed old man. They were very humble because this old man was much stronger than them. Hearing the 3's report, the gray-robed old man's face turned solemn. He was moved by the divine key. Then, after 3 breaths, his gaze fell on Lin Tian. Reincarnation body. Looking at Lin Tian, his eyes were deep and cold. Then he pressed forward. Lin Tian controlled the ancient corpse with his spiritual soul. Immediately, his expression changed slightly. Previously, he had heard that an ancient ancestor of the celestial court would enter this world. It was true. Although he did not arrive before the people of the heaven protectors, he was still here. Then, he controlled the ancient corpse and stepped forward. In a flash, he appeared beside little Taichu and took the little Taichu away. The ancient corpse he controlled was definitely stronger than the ancient ancestor of the celestial court when he was alive. However, with his current strength, he was far from being able to use all of the ancient corpse's power. At most, he could only use the tip of the iceberg. It was only enough to deal with ordinary reaching heaven realm experts. Facing the ancient ancestor of the celestial court, he could not block it at all. The gray-robed old man snorted and stepped forward. He raised his hand and pressed down on the ancient corpse controlled by Lin Tian. He wanted to first extract Lin Tian's spiritual soul, then take Lin Tian's body. This palm seemed simple, but it completely sealed the surrounding space, not giving Lin Tian a chance to dodge. Lin Tian gritted his teeth. There was no way to dodge, so he could only control the ancient corpse and punch it. In the next moment, he controlled the ancient corpse to punch out and collided with the palm of the ancient ancestor of the celestial court. Dong! With a loud boom, the void collapsed. Then, he was forced to take 3 steps back from the impact. On the other side, the ancient ancestor of the celestial court was even more embarrassed than him. He was forced to take 11 steps back. This made his pupils constrict. At the same time, he was surprised, and he once again experienced the terrifying power of this ancient corpse. He had used his spiritual soul to control the body to punch out. He could not use all of the body's power, but at this time, he was still able to defeat the gray-robed ancient ancestor of the celestial court in terms of pure physical power. Ancient ancestor. The expressions of the 3 heavenly courts' heavenly masters changed as well, astonished by this scene. The gray-robed old man's pupils constricted. He stared at the ancient corpse controlled by Lin Tian without blinking. There was shock in his eyes, and he was shocked by the power of the ancient corpse's body. However, in the next moment, his eyes became cold again, even colder than before. There was an eerie chill that rose up, and he directly shook his Saint Force, transforming it into a great holy light handprint, and grabbed out again. Facing this great holy light handprint, Lin Tian's expression changed. He immediately felt the terror of this great holy light handprint. His spiritual soul, which had entered the ancient corpse, could not help but tremble. As the great holy light handprint pressed down, the opponent's majestic saint power affected his spiritual soul, making it impossible for him to continue controlling the ancient corpse. He was frozen in place. Move! He roared in his heart and shook his spiritual soul. He wanted to control the ancient corpse to move again, but it was difficult to do so because the saint energy of the gray-robed elder was too strong. Although the ancient corpse was very intimidating, his own cultivation was too low compared to the elder's. At this time, his spiritual soul was suppressed, and he could not move it no matter what. For a moment, he could only watch as the great holy light handprint pressed down on him. However, in the next moment, his spiritual soul suddenly trembled, and he felt a chill. At this time, the great holy light handprint pressed down. His spiritual soul was suppressed, and he could not move. However, he felt that the saint power in the ancient corpse suddenly moved on its own. It was as if the ancient corpse had developed a consciousness and was operating the saint power in its body. Then, the saint power flowed, and a wave of saint light rippled out like water. Chi. Chapter 2156. Blood floated in the air, causing everyone's expression to change. Lord, ancient ancestor. The three celestial court lords could not help but cry out. Yah! Little Alpha Primordium's eyes widened in disbelief at this scene. At the same time, Lin Tian's spiritual soul entered the ancient corpse. His spiritual soul trembled even more. At this moment, he could clearly feel that the saint energy in the ancient corpse was circulating faster and faster. Moreover, life aura and soul energy began to emerge. It was as if a glimmer of light had suddenly appeared in a pitch-black night. Then, the glimmer began to expand, dispelling all the darkness. In the next moment, a strong force gushed out of the ancient corpse and shook his spiritual soul out. Then, a bright light intertwined in the ancient corpse's eyes, causing the sky to change color. Lin Tian's spiritual soul was shaken out and quickly returned to his body. He brought little Taichu with him and moved 1,000 feet away. Then, he looked at the ancient corpse in front of him again. It's alive? His eyelids could not help but twitch. At this moment, the ancient corpse was clearly exuding an extremely strong life aura. He could not believe it. A few days ago, he did not feel any life aura from the corpse at all. Why did the life aura suddenly appear now? He could not understand the situation at all. Little Taichu's eyes widened. He could not help but shrink his neck, shrink his body, and lie in Lin Tian's hair. It was also at this moment that the ancient ancestor of the celestial court, who had been shaken out, stabilized himself. His gaze fell on the ancient corpse, and then he looked at Lin Tian on the other side. Then his gaze fell on the ancient corpse again. His gaze froze, then turned cold. At this moment, the ancient ancestor of the celestial court naturally noticed the changes in the ancient corpse. It was no longer controlled by Lin Tian. Moreover, its state had changed. It was no longer a corpse, but a living person. However, the ancient ancestor of the celestial court did not care much about this. Have you recovered from the deep level of cultivation, wandering between life and death? The ancient ancestor of the celestial court said coldly as he looked at the ancient corpse. He seemed to have noticed something. Then, he directly made his move. His saint power vibrated and interweaved with a murderous force to suppress the ancient corpse. You're not weak. Just disappear completely here. Boom! The saint energy was boundless, and it was unknown how many times more terrifying it was than before. The entire world began to tremble, and the ground began to sink. In the blink of an eye, the killing force arrived in front of the ancient corpse and landed on its body. With a rumbling sound, the destructive aura completely annihilated the surrounding space. Smoke and dust drifted in the air. Soon after, the smoke and dust dissipated. The ancient corpse stood in its original place, completely unharmed. This, Lin Tian was moved. He could feel how terrifying that attack was. However, the ancient corpse that he had found was completely unscathed after taking that attack head-on. It had blocked the destructive attack with just its physical body. How could this be? The three lords of the celestial court were also shocked. The ancient corpse's life aura became even more intense. Its eyes also had a luster and became deeper. The great apocalypse has come to this universe. This ancient corpse was an old man. At this time, it was no longer a corpse, but a living person. His life aura continued to strengthen. Then gradually his old body began to change. He became younger and gradually became a middle-aged man. His face was as sharp as a knife, giving people a sense of steadiness and steadiness. This change shocked Lin Tian. Little Taichu also widened his eyes. He's turning into a middle-aged man. On the other side, the gray-robed ancient ancestor's eyes narrowed again. He had used 60% of his strength in that attack. However, the ancient corpse was completely unharmed when the saint light mixed with murderous intent hit it head-on. It was still standing in its original place, as if it did not even see his attack. Moreover, at this time, the ancient corpse's life aura continued to rise, giving him an ominous feeling. With this ominous feeling, the ancient ancestor of the celestial court could not help but snort coldly. His saint power surged, and in an instant, he used 90% of his battle strength to condense a 3-meter-long saint sword. The destructive aura was vast and mighty, and the entire macro world seemed to be about to be shattered. Looking at the middle-aged ancient corpse, he said coldly, "There's no need to continue recovering." Die and boom. The sky shook, interrupting the ancient corpse's words. The middle-aged ancient corpse swept a glance at the ancient corpse, and a murderous saint light directly struck down. The saint light vibrated like thunder and was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it shattered the ancient ancestor's 3-meter-long saint's sword into pieces. Moreover, the ancient corpse's divine soul also disappeared under the saint light. This scene made Lin Tian's pupil shrink. He's dead. This was an ancient ancestor of the celestial court, but now he was killed in an instant by the middle-aged ancient corpse. What kind of powerful existence did he pick up? Little Taichu's eyes widened even more, and he shrunk his neck with all his might. Ancient ancestor, how could this be? This? The three gods of the celestial court could not help but tremble, and their faces turned pale. One of their ancient ancestors was killed just like that. Run! In the next moment, the same word appeared in their minds at the same time, and the three of them immediately fled far away. However, the three of them had only escaped a few hundred meters away when 3 beams of Saint Light fell, and all of them were destroyed in body and soul. The middle-aged ancient corpse's eyes were deep as he stood there, looking at the sky and scanning the world. There was a faint cold light in his deep eyes, but then he could not help but sigh. In the end, I can't avoid it, the middle-aged man muttered to himself. Then, he turned around and looked at Lin Tian, who was thousands of meters away. Without any movement, he appeared next to Lin Tian in the next moment. When Lin Tian saw the middle-aged man appear in front of him like this, he could not see the middle-aged man's movement trajectory at all. He could not help but take a step back. However, he only took a step back and then stabilized his body again. He did not show any fear, because he could feel that the middle-aged man did not have any malicious intentions towards him. "Senior, I'm sorry. I found you by chance and thought that you were dead, so I moved your body without permission." He bowed. At this time, although he could feel that the middle-aged man did not have any malicious intentions, he was very embarrassed. Now it seemed that the middle-aged man was not dead at that time. According to the ancient ancestor of the celestial court, the middle-aged man seemed to be in a state of neither life nor death during cultivation. However, he thought that the middle-aged man was dead, so he moved him out of the place of seclusion and used him as a killing weapon. Chapter 2157. The middle-aged man quickly arrived in front of Lin Tian and stared at Lin Tian without blinking. "There's no need to apologize. Something went wrong when I was comprehending the Tao. If you hadn't used your spirit to stimulate me, the consequences might have been as you said." The middle-aged man looked at Lin Tian and said, "I should thank you." Lin Tian was slightly stunned when he heard this. He was a little surprised. Did he accidentally save the other party? It's good that Senior is fine. He came back to his senses and said so. The middle-aged man looked at Lin Tian. His eyes were incomparably deep, like a bottomless black hole. A reincarnated body. I didn't expect that someone would dare to do that. Lin Tian was puzzled. Senior, what do you mean? He felt that the other party was implying something. However, the middle-aged man didn't elaborate. He shook his head and looked at little Taichu, then looked into the distance. Human King, it's as you said back then. If that path doesn't work, then I can't protect this universe. The middle-aged man muttered to himself. The next moment, an extremely cold light intertwined in his eyes. However, I can't let them off so easily. As his words fell, Lin Tian felt as if all the Daos in the world seemed to tremble, as if they were terrified. His spirit couldn't help but tremble. He immediately felt a surge of destructive power, making it difficult for him to even make a sound. I will definitely repay this kindness in the future. You can survive this great calamity. I'll see you on the final battlefield. The middle-aged man's gaze fell on Lin Tian. It was incomparably deep. The next moment, he silently disappeared from where he was. The place became silent all of a sudden. Lin Tian's eyes couldn't help but flicker. This middle-aged man was too strong. The aura he emitted just now was enough to compare to the 72-winged, golden-robed elder of the Heaven Protector clan that he saw in that space. At the same time, another thing that moved him was that the other party seemed to know the Human King. For a moment, he couldn't help but be a little stunned. Then, it wasn't until dozens of breaths later that he regained his calm. Forget it. It's useless to care about these things. I'll do my own thing. He muttered to himself and asked little Taichu to leave. The jade bottle in this world had already been taken by him. He called out to the little Taichu and left. He was prepared to go to other ordinary large worlds to seize the jade bottle that the celestial court used to collect life essence. At the same time, he was also looking for the white tiger. Not long after, he found another great world that was as big as the celestial realm. He went directly to the center of this world and killed a few Dominator Realm experts. He took the jade bottle that was used to collect life essence from this world. Right now, he was only a 4th heavenly layer Saint Venerate, but because of the Samsara Heart Sutra, he was able to unleash his full potential. With the Samsara Forging Mind Sutra, he could increase his battle prowess by 20 times. If he used his full strength, he could kill a few ordinary rulers. Go to other worlds, he said to little Taichu. He took little Taichu with him. After that, he stepped into many ordinary large worlds that were as big as the celestial realm. He seized the jade bottle that the celestial court used to collect life essence from. In the blink of an eye, more than 3 months had passed. Continue. In 3 months, he seized more than 30 jade bottles that the celestial court used to collect life essence from. On this day, he called out to little Taichu and stepped into another great world. In an unknown place, immortal mountains and divine peaks were everywhere. It was incomparably majestic. What? In this place, in a divine palace, an old man in a golden robe with 72 wings on his back stood up from a jade chair. 2 dazzling rays of light shot out from his eyes and directly shattered more than half of the divine palace. A destructive aura spread out. The golden-robed old man was the person who had been sent flying after searching for the divine key. He had been sent flying by the power of the divine key and had been trapped in the crack between worlds for a period of time. He had only managed to break free a few days ago and return to his previous world. Unfortunately, the divine key was no longer in that world and had returned here. Then, on this day, an expert with 36 wings from this lineage came here to report a major event. Has anyone seen a woman with the same appearance as her? The old man in a golden robe's eyes were intertwined with intense rays of light. At the same time, there were 8 other 72-winged existences beside him. After hearing this, their eyes all narrowed. Before this, the divine key was a big secret in the Celestial Protector clan. Only those who had reached 72 wings knew about it. In fact, before this, no one in their clan knew that there was such a person as the divine key in the clan's history, except for those with 72 wings. However, a few days ago, the divine key was discovered in that world with 72 wings on her back. Many people knew that there was a woman in the Celestial Protector clan who had reached 72 wings. This news spread far and wide. Later, The black-robed ancient ancestor in the celestial court in the Nihility world found out about it. He was immediately moved and thought of Wu-Yi who had injured him. He immediately reported this matter. It's true. Someone has seen a woman with the same appearance as that person in the primordial universe. The 36-winged expert said. Moreover, this person sent out a divine consciousness imprint. It was the black-robed old man from before. In the divine consciousness imprint, Wu-Yi's white clothes were whiter than snow. For a moment, the old man in a golden robe and the other 72-winged existence's eyes narrowed. The rays of light in their eyes became even more intense. The same appearance. How can there be such a coincidence? That's her descendant. Back then, with that human, The old man in a golden robe did not finish his sentence. 2 rays of piercing cold light shot out from his eyes. In the primordial universe? Very good. Very good. This old man will personally capture her descendant and use her descendant as bait to lure her back. Let's see how she reacts then. The Divine Key's death in the Celestial clan was an eternal humiliation to their clan. Not long ago, he had not even been able to suppress a wisp of Divine Key's consciousness after her death. This made him feel extremely sullen. Now that he learned that there was someone who looked exactly like her, he immediately guessed many things. The coldness in his eyes intensified. As soon as he finished speaking, the light of destruction interweaved around his body. He tore open a universe portal and stepped into it. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. In an ordinary great world in the Xianwang universe, defying the Celestial Court and seizing the Tao fruit of the Celestial Court. Human, you will not have a good ending. You will definitely fall into purgatory. In the center of this great world, blood dyed the ground red. The physical body of a Celestial Court ruler had been destroyed. Only his spirit was left. At this moment, his eyes were filled with shock and anger. Lin Tian's clothes were stained with blood. He had also suffered heavy injuries in the battle with this ruler. At this moment, his eyes were cold. He directly slashed at the ruler's spirit body with his sword. If there is purgatory, it is prepared for you people of the Celestial Court. Poof! With a soft sound, the Celestial Court ruler was directly killed. Then, he raised his hand and took the jade bottle that the Celestial Court used to collect life essence. He put it into his body. Let's go, little guy. Find an abandoned and barren world and start improving your cultivation. Chapter 2158. After several months, Lin Tian had passed through various worlds. He had obtained a total of 38 jade bottles. There was a large amount of life essence in these jade bottles. They had been collected by the Heavenly Court through the slaughter of tens of thousands of creatures. Now that he had obtained these jade bottles, he felt that he could use them to refine and cultivate. First, he could raise his cultivation base. Very soon, he found a desolate planet with the little Taichu. The environment there was safe enough. After entering the planet, he and the little Taichu arrived in a desolate valley. After engraving several dozen formations to conceal his presence, he took out the 38 jade bottles. He gave half to the little Taichu and kept the other half for himself. Let's begin, he said to the little Taichu. Yeah. The little Taichu nodded. He immediately circulated the ancient scripture of his lineage and began to absorb the essence of life in the jade bottles to cultivate and raise his cultivation. Lin Tian circulated the Reincarnation Sutra. 9-colored radiance revolved around him as he absorbed the essence of life from the jade bottles. The dense essence of life revolved around him and fused into his body. Under the effects of the Reincarnation Sutra, it surged into every inch of his flesh. Immediately, the essence of life around him gradually became richer. His vitality and cultivation rose strand by strand. Just like that, time passed. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. In 3 months, he had used up all the essence of life in the 19 jade bottles. The radiance around him had become even denser. 7th level Saint Master. The further he progressed in his cultivation, the more essence of life he would need to refine to increase his cultivation. As a result, He had reached the fourth heavenly layer from the second heavenly layer with the essence of life in a single jade bottle. Now, he had only reached the seventh heavenly layer from the fourth heavenly layer after refining the essence of life in 19 jade bottles. Now that he had reached the seventh level of the Saint Venerable realm, he could sense the changes in his body with his consciousness. He could clearly feel that the saint energy in his body had become denser. His sea of consciousness had become vaster. His soul had become tougher, and his combat strength had increased significantly. It was also at this moment that the little Taichu finished refining all the life essence in the 19 jade bottles, reaching the fifth heavenly layer from early Saint Venerable. "Yeah," the little guy called out in his childish voice. In just 3 months, his cultivation had increased by so much. He was very happy. Lin Tianyi smiled and said, "Consolidate my cultivation." Life essence qi was very pure. Generally speaking, refining it to increase one's cultivation would not have too big of a flaw, and it would not affect one's Taoist foundation. However, even so, one still had to concentrate on stabilizing one's current cultivation, which was beneficial and not harmful. At that moment, he and the little Taichu began to circulate their respective ancient scriptures and began to consolidate their current realms. 2 different types of holy light intertwined in this valley. In the Hongming universe, in the starry sky, stars filled one's eyes. A golden-robed elder was walking. He had 72 wings on his back, and his eyes were extremely deep and cold. He was a top expert of the Heaven Protector tribe. Previously, he had heard that there was someone in the Hongming universe who looked exactly like the Divine Key, so he had entered the Hongming universe to search for it. After 3 months, he finally found a clue. "Divine Key, I did not expect you to have a child with a human. You and your mother are the disgrace of my tribe." Disgrace. As he walked in the starry sky, his eyes were bone-chilling and filled with killing intent. As he walked, the stars in the boundless starry sky trembled, as if they would collapse in the next moment. His speed was shockingly fast. As he walked in the starry sky, he passed through 3 major star regions in the blink of an eye. Not long after, a huge star appeared in front of him. It was colorful and hazy, looking very beautiful and dreamy. When the golden-robed elder arrived, his eyes turned even colder. The killing intent in his eyes was as boundless as the sky as he walked towards the ancient star. It was also at this time that a figure silently appeared outside ancient star. It was a middle-aged man in a white robe. He stood in the starry sky like a mortal, and there was nothing special about him. The golden-robed elder stopped and narrowed his eyes. Just now, there was no one else in this place. The appearance of the middle-aged man in front of him was too strange, and he did not notice him. "I was too concerned about her offspring, and my divine senses were affected," he muttered to himself. He muttered to himself. His eyes became even colder and filled with killing intent. "Divine Key, you and your mother will taste all kinds of torture." As he muttered to himself, he walked towards the ancient star in front of him again. He looked at the middle-aged man with a chilling gaze. Filthy and lowly. Looking at the middle-aged man, his voice was bone-chilling. Killing intent intertwined around his body. However, in the next instant, he seemed to have sensed something. His footsteps paused, and the words he was about to say were forcefully stopped. His face instantly turned deathly pale. Human. Human King? At that moment, this Heaven Protector clan's 72-winged existence, one of the most powerful experts in this world, trembled involuntarily. It was as if an ordinary mortal had seen a malicious spirit. Endless fear appeared in his eyes. Then, without any hesitation, he turned around and fled. His speed was shockingly fast, distorting even time. Since ancient times, countless people had challenged the human king, plotting to kill the human king. Some people felt complacent because they survived after fighting the human king, believing that the difference between them and the human king was not that great. However, the true experts knew how ignorant and stupid these thoughts were. For those true experts, the more powerful they were, the more they understood what the 2 words human king represented. They understood how great the gap was between them and the human king, and how difficult it was to surpass it. Outside the ancient star, the middle-aged man was very calm. He looked no different from an ordinary mortal. "You shouldn't have come here." The golden-robed elder had already fled far away. Then, as these words floated out from the middle-aged man's mouth, his powerful saint body stiffened and directly disintegrated in the starry sky, disappearing in an instant. Faint silver radiance intertwined in the starry sky, but there was no change. The middle-aged man looked into the ancient star and disappeared silently. At the same time, in an unknown place where celestial mountains lay horizontally, 72 winged existences were in a sacred palace. Among them, a black-robed elder's expression changed drastically. "What's wrong?" the other 7 asked. Behind the black-robed elder, the 72 wings trembled. "Shunemo is dead. He disappeared in an instant." "What?" The other 7's expressions changed drastically. The golden-robed elder was called Shunemo, and he was very close to the black-robed elder. The two had created the ancient scripture together and shared the same origin. As long as one of them died, the other would be able to sense it immediately. To be able to kill Shunemo in an instant, other than that Lord, there's only one person in this world: human. King. After disappearing for so long, he has now appeared. At this moment, the faces of the top 72 winged experts turned ugly. In an abandoned star in the universe of Xianhuang, Lin Tian and Little Taichu were consolidating their cultivation on this abandoned star. Faint saint radiance intertwined around their bodies, becoming more and more condensed. Then, after another 3 days, the saint radiance around his body entered his body, and he opened his eyes and stood up. Not bad. In the past few days, he circulated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra and completely stabilized his cultivation of the 7th heaven of Saint Venerate. At the same time, Little Taichu also woke up and stopped circulating the ancient scripture. His cultivation had also completely stabilized. Let's go and continue fighting for the jade bottle. At the same time, we'll find that stupid tiger and your father. Chapter 2159. After leaving the abandoned planet, Lin Tian took Little Taichu and soon entered a large world that was similar to the fairy realm. Now, if he wanted to seize the jade pristine bottle from the heavenly court, he could only do it in a macro world of this level. He did not dare to go to an extremely large world like the celestial realm of nothingness, because in such a macro world, there would usually be a sky-reaching realm of the heavenly court. With his current battle strength, he could not resist a sky-reaching realm of nothingness. Entering this new world, the smell of blood in the air was very strong. Many creatures had already died in this world. Lin Tian didn't hesitate. He took Little Taichu and went directly to the center of this large world. The special jade bottle that the celestial court used to collect life essence was located in the center of every large world. Soon they crossed a long distance. A series of celestial mountains appeared in front of them. An earth-shattering tiger's roar came from within, causing the man and the beast to be shocked. "Yeah, stupid tiger's voice." Little Taichu opened its eyes wide. Lin Tian naturally recognized that the voice belonged to the white tiger. At this time, he felt the white tiger's aura. "Let's go," he said. He took Little Taichu and rushed in the direction of the tiger's roar. They were now looking for the white tiger. They didn't expect to hear the white tiger's voice as soon as they entered this large world. He was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the celestial mountains in front of him. Soon, a group of celestial soldiers and celestial generals appeared in front of them. They were all shrouded in shocking holy light. The white tiger was trapped by these celestial soldiers and celestial generals. Beam after beam of killing light slashed at it. At the same time, there were many broken corpses on the ground. They all had Saint King auras. They were celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the celestial court. Most of them were 9th-tier Saint Kings. Their Saint Chi was very impressive. Not bad. He was a little surprised. He could sense White Tiger's cultivation. He was at the 7th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler, so he was extremely powerful to be able to kill so many 9th heavenly layer Saint Rulers. However, he also discovered that the white tiger situation was not very good right now because there were just too many saint rulers attacking the white tiger. Aside from the several dozen corpses that had been slain by the white tiger, there were still over 100 people attacking the white tiger. Most of them were ninth heavenly layer saint rulers, while the leader was extremely close to becoming a saint exalt. Immediately, he stepped over and greeted the white tiger when he was still a few dozen feet away. Yo! Yo! Little Taichu followed suit and added, "Finally found you, stupid tiger." When the white tiger heard the voice, it was shocked at first, and then it was overjoyed. Brat Lin, little guy. Seeing the sudden appearance of Lin Tian and little Taichu, it was excited. When it was swept into this universe, Lin Tian and little Taichu were separated. It had already been a year. A year was not a long time. However, after being separated for a year and meeting again in this unfamiliar environment, it felt as if they were reunited after a generation. Naturally, it was very happy at this moment. Furthermore, it was currently in a difficult situation, so the sudden appearance of Lin Tian and little Taichu was a pleasant surprise. Quick, quick, quick! Help! It yelled. Before this, it had been hunted down by more than 200 saint rulers of the celestial court. It had already fought for 3 days and 3 nights, and it had killed more than half of them. Now there was only a little less than half left. Its saint force was almost depleted, so it did not have much battle strength left. The group of celestial soldiers and celestial generals surrounding the white tiger naturally saw Lin Tian and little Taichu, and they all wore cold expressions. Accomplices? Kill them together. Among them, more than 10 people directly charged toward Lin Tian and little Taichu. Lin Tian brought little Taichu toward the white tiger. He did not even bother to look at the saint rulers who were charging toward him. Then, the saint rulers who rushed toward him immediately shattered when they attacked him. Their killing intent was repelled by the reincarnation heart sutra in his body, and before it could react, it disappeared from the world. In the next moment, he appeared in front of the white tiger with little Taichu. Clang! Without any movement, dense sword light emerged from his body and slashed in all directions like a rain of swords. Immediately, the 100 or so saint kings who were still alive were all crushed by the sword light. You're not injured at all. Not bad. He looked at the white tiger and said. At this time, the white tiger was stained with blood, but its injuries were not serious. It was just that its saint power was about to dry up. What do you mean you're not injured at all? Don't you know how to talk? The white tiger rolled its eyes before saying rather proudly, I've refined so many immortal treasures after all. Although I'm at the 7th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler, how can a regular person do anything to me at the level of Saint Ruler? They can only consume my saint power. After the excitement of reuniting with Lin Tian and little Taichu in this unfamiliar environment, it returned to normal. Show off. Lin Tian squinted at it. At this time, he did not ask why the white tiger was being chased by the celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the celestial court, because there was no need to ask. Now, the celestial court was destroying the Xianhuang universe and slaughtering all the creatures in this universe. Each of them was like a mad dog. As long as they saw someone who was not from the celestial court, they would immediately kill. You're clearly telling the truth. The white tiger rolled its eyes again, and then looked at Lin Tian and little Taichu. It could not help but be moved, and its eyes widened. Kid, you're already at the 7th heaven of the Saint Ruler realm. And this little guy, you're already at the 5th heaven of the Saint Ruler realm. Lin Tian and little Taichu did not hide anything from it, so it could naturally sense their cultivation realms at this time. It could not help but be surprised. One should know that Lin Tian was only at the 1st heaven of the Saint Ruler realm a year ago, and little Taichu was at the 7th heaven of the Saint Ruler realm. But now, after a year, Lin Tian had reached the 7th heaven of the Saint Ruler realm, and little Taichu had reached the 5th heaven of the Saint Ruler realm. This cultivation speed was a little too fast. What kind of super treasure did you find? How did your cultivation speed increase so fast? It stared. It was impossible for him to raise his cultivation by so much in just a year. Normal cultivation was definitely impossible. It's not that. Lin Tian Ondao briefly explained the matter of seizing the life essence collected by the celestial court. Hearing this, the white tiger was moved again. Kid, you're really something. Why didn't I think of doing this before? Then after thinking about it, it rolled its eyes again. Well, okay, I thought of it, but I didn't have the strength to take it. Chapter 2160. Treasure Land? What treasure land? What kind of treasures are there? Lin Tianwei was doubtful. Well, I'm not sure either. Anyway, it's very extraordinary. Otherwise, it wouldn't have attracted a dominator. The white tiger said. Lin Tian nodded. The white tiger's words made sense. Do you know where it is? He asked the white tiger. Of course I know where it is. The white tiger nodded. Okay, let's go. Lin Tiandao let the white tiger lead the way. Immediately, the man and the two beasts headed towards the southwest of this world. As far as the white tiger knew, the treasure land was located in a vast ocean in the southwest of this world. After walking for a short distance, Lin Tian directly took action. He tore open a void door with his holy venerable cultivation and led the white tiger and little Taichu into it. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the southwest region of this world. As far as the eye could see, the vast ocean in front of them was boundless. There was a sea breeze that carried traces of salty air. He led the white tiger and little Taichu at a very fast speed. They walked on the surface of the sea and soon crossed a large distance. Suddenly, a huge island appeared in front of them. It was surrounded by holy light. It's there? Lin Tian's eyes moved slightly. After arriving here, he felt that the treasure land that the celestial court had discovered that the white tiger mentioned should be on that island. This was because, just by looking at it from afar, he could see that the island was extraordinary. It was like a holy island. There was a high possibility that there was an extraordinary treasure land on it. I'm not sure. I only know that it's in this vast ocean. The white tiger said and looked ahead. However, looking at the situation, the treasure land should be on this island. Lin Tian did not hesitate. He called out to the two and directly headed towards the island in front of them. In the blink of an eye, they stepped onto the island. As soon as they set foot on the island, the expression of the man and the two beasts immediately changed. There were many plants on the island, and they were all very common species. They could be seen everywhere, but the intertwined aura of life was frighteningly dense. It was so dense that it was somewhat abnormal. The white tiger's eyes widened. The aura of life emitted by any random plant here was actually comparable to that of a quasi-sane expert. This was somewhat shocking. Boom! Suddenly, on the island, hundreds of thousands of miles away, there was a shocking wave of saint energy mixed with the might of a dominator. Lin Tian looked in that direction and immediately called out to the white tiger and little Taichu, and they headed there. A distance of several 100,000 feet was not considered very far for powerful cultivators like them. They arrived there in the blink of an eye. As far as the eye could see, there were 8 middle-aged men standing in front of him. All of them wore the unique attire of the celestial court and were in the sovereign realm. At this time, the 8 of them were attacking a patch of green vines in front of them. There seemed to be a space behind the vines, and the 8 of them wanted to enter it. Boom! Their saint energy intertwined as the 8 of them continuously attacked the vines, wanting to shatter them. However, the green vines were too tough. When the 8 dominators' saint energy landed on these vines, it did not cause the slightest bit of damage to these vines. They were unable to destroy these vines at all. With our strength, we really can't break it, one of them said. We can only wait for Heaven Lord Taimu to arrive. We'll guard here for the time being. There's no need to waste any more effort. How many days will it take for Heaven Lord Taimu to arrive? The same message has already been sent out for a few hours. Lord Taimu is in the extreme world closest to this great world. He'll arrive here in about 3 days. After that, when we get the thing behind, Lord Taimu should give us a good reward. If we can get it ourselves, that'll be great. If we get that thing, the benefits in the future will be limitless. So what a pity. The other dominators chatted with each other, but they felt that it was a pity. Lin Tian brought the white tiger and the little Taichu to this place. He used his divine consciousness to sense the surroundings. After confirming that there were no other powerful beings nearby, he walked over directly. Hey, you're just going to walk out like that? 8 dominators. The white tiger's eyes widened. Although it had heard Lin Tian mention that he had killed a dominator before, it couldn't help but be shocked when it saw Lin Tian swagger out like that. After all, there were 8 dominators standing together here. Lin Tian could deal with and kill a single dominator in a battle. But could he completely block all 8 of them? It wasn't sure about this. At this moment, it felt a chill run down its spine. Lin Tian didn't care about this and continued walking forward. At this moment, he didn't conceal himself. The 8 dominators of the celestial court in front of him naturally saw him, and their eyes turned cold. Holy venerables, there are people of this level in this world? That's interesting. One of them looked at Lin Tian and said. In the next moment, his expression changed when he saw the little Taichu beside Lin Tian. The royal family of the celestial spirit tribe? At the same time, the other 7 dominators' expressions changed as well. Then, in the next moment, their eyes lit up. Kill the human and that tiger. Capture the royal family of the celestial spirit tribe. Do it. The 8 of them moved together, their dominator-level holy powers sealing off the surroundings. Our luck isn't bad. First, we found that sacred item, and now we've encountered a descendant of the royal family of the celestial spirit tribe. Very good, very good. One of them was excited. Suppress it and present it to the higher-ups. We'll be handsomely rewarded. In the blink of an eye, the 8 dominators' holy power landed in front of Lin Tian and the others. Such an aura sent a chill down the white tiger's spine. 8 dominators attacking together was no laughing matter. However, in the next moment, with a clang, the sound of a weapon rang out. A short blade rushed out of Lin Tian's body and slashed the 8 dominators' holy power into nothingness. Then, in the next moment, 7 more precious weapons appeared in his body. Their auras were no weaker than the short blades. Emperor weapons! The white tiger's eyes widened. At this moment, he could clearly feel the heavenly pressure from the 8 precious weapons. Kid, Lin Tian had previously mentioned that he could kill a dominator, but he didn't mention that he had an immortal weapon. At this moment, seeing the 8 immortal weapons, the white tiger was so shocked that its eyes almost popped out of their sockets. At the same time, the expressions of the 8 dominators of the celestial court changed drastically. They were all dominator-level cultivators, and their combat strength was very strong. However, in the face of an emperor weapon supported by a saint venerable, they couldn't block it no matter what. Moreover, Lin Tian was supporting 8 emperor weapons at this time. Lin Tian didn't say anything to these people. He directly attacked. With his 7th heaven saint venerable cultivation, he used the weapon control technique to control the 8 emperor weapons and press them down on the 8 dominators of the celestial court. Each emperor weapon attacked one of them. To the 8 of them, such an attack was undoubtedly devastating. It was so much so that the 8 of them could not escape even if they wanted to. Puff! 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 Blood splattered. In the blink of an eye, 7 of the 8 dominators were killed by Lin Tian. Only one was left. This is really... The white tiger sucked in a breath of cold air. Controlling the 8 Emperor Divine weapons and killing 7 Dominator rank experts in the blink of an eye, it was truly frightened. One had to know that even ordinary Transcending Heaven experts did not have a single treasure weapon of this level. Yet, Lin Tian had so many treasure weapons of this level. On the other side, the surviving Dominator of the Celestial Court was covered in blood and trembling. His eyes were filled with fear. He couldn't help but beg Lin Tian for mercy. "Well, let me go." In the face of death, even a Dominator would feel fear. Lin Tian didn't say anything to this person. He suppressed him with the 8 Emperor weapons and then directly sent his divine consciousness into the other's mind to search for information about this place. Chapter 2161. The Bodhi tree, also known as the Tree of Wisdom, was extremely rare and had many legends about it. It could help people understand the truth and reach a truly extraordinary state. In the history of cultivation, It was said that someone once comprehended the Tao under the Bodhi tree in a day and became one of the most powerful people in the world. One day's work was equivalent to millions of years of cultivation. Therefore, while the Bodhi tree was known as the tree of wisdom, it was also known as the sacred tree. It was a peerless sacred treasure even to immortal ascension cultivators. Lin Tian did not expect to find a Bodhi tree in this place, on this treasure island. "What's wrong, kid? What did you find?" The white tiger asked when it saw Lin Tian's strange expression. Lin Tian smashed the last heavenly court's heavenly master into pieces with a single slap. He didn't hide anything and simply explained everything. The white tiger's eyes widened in shock. On the Milky Way imperial planet, legend has it that the Buddha attained Tao under the Bodhi tree. There's a Bodhi tree here? Like Lin Tianyi, it came from the Milky Way imperial planet. It did not know if the Buddha really existed, but it could imagine that if he really did exist, he would definitely be one of the top existences in the world. How could a Bodhi tree that could help such a powerful person attain Tao be bad? It was obvious that it was a super sacred object that could make people go crazy. From what I found in that person's sea of consciousness, it does exist. One of them happened to see the shadow of the Bodhi tree above this treasure island, and it appeared from here. Lin Tiandao looked at the vines in front of him. The white tiger was shocked again, and then it was overjoyed. "What are we waiting for? Hurry up, let's rush in and dig it out." Lin Tian did not need it to say more about this. After learning that there was a Bodhi tree here, he had already begun to observe the vines in front of him. A large number of dragon patterns intertwined under his feet and sank into the ground to explore the surroundings. Soon, a full quarter of an hour passed. He used the dragon burial scripture to explore this place and learn a lot. This island has gathered almost all the core forces of this great world. The vines here are condensed from all the forces of this great world. It's very difficult to break them, he said in a deep voice. He reckoned that the reason why this treasure island was able to gather the core powers of the entire world was related to the Bodhi tree. "How difficult is it? Can you break it?" the white tiger asked. He was very concerned about this. "Yes, Lin Tiandao. However, it will take a long time. Generally speaking, it will take 2 days in a row." "What? Don't you have so many monarch weapons?" White Tiger asked. "Don't you have so many monarch weapons? It shouldn't be difficult to destroy this world. Why don't we just use those emperor weapons to destroy these vines?" "You think too much, Lin Tiandao. Purely relying on brute force. At least someone at the level of the ancestor of the celestial court can break it." Then he added, "As for this world, I can destroy an ordinary world of this level. However, with the Bodhi tree here, this world is probably a little unusual. In terms of toughness, it's comparable to a perfect world. Even someone at the level of the ancestor of the celestial court would find it difficult to destroy it." This, the white tiger could not help but widen its eyes in shock. Lin Tian no longer said anything to it. The dragon patterns continued to intertwine and surge into the ground to analyze the general situation here. At this time, he felt a sense of urgency. The news of a Bodhi tree here had already spread. This was absolutely shocking. He did not know how many experts of the Celestial Court would rush here. Even the Ancestor-level characters would rush here. With his current battle strength and Emperor weapons, he could at most deal with Void Sky experts. He could not block Ascending Heaven experts at all. As for Ancestor-level characters, needless to say, he would definitely die. Therefore, at this time, he could use the Dragon Burial Scripture to break the green vine barrier here at the fastest speed. Then, he directly dug out the Bodhi tree in the space behind and took it away. He did not even have time to use the Bodhi tree here to cultivate. He let the White Tiger and the little Taichu stand guard at the side. The Dragon Burial Scripture operated at an extremely fast speed. The dragon patterns were densely packed. In the blink of an eye, a full day and a half passed. After a day and a half, he finally understood the general situation of this place using the Dragon Burial Scripture. The dense dragon patterns turned into a dragon pattern sword, temporarily isolating the general situation of this place from the underground. Then, he directly slashed forward with the sword. With a clang, accompanied by the sound of the sword, The vines in front of him were directly cut into pieces and turned into ashes. Then, the sound of space shattering was heard. A purple light barrier appeared behind the shattered vines. Then, because the vine barrier was destroyed, the purple light barrier also shattered at this time. Immediately, incomparably rich Saint's spiritual divine chi intertwined. An extremely pure Saint light pillar directly shot into the sky, shaking the entire macro world. The spiritual energy of the macro world increased by more than 10,000 times in the blink of an eye. There, that light. What is it? At this moment, everyone in this vast world saw the pillar of light that shot up from the island. They were all shocked. Just looking at the pillar of light from afar was enough to shake the minds of ordinary people, while the souls of cultivators were greatly shaken. They felt as if the pillar of light contained the truth of the world. It's definitely a rare treasure of heaven and earth. In the macro world, all the experts were attracted by the Saint Light Pillar. They all rushed over. On the treasure island, the pure Saint Light Pillar stretched across the island. Lin Tian was the first to be shocked. At this moment, as the pure Saint Light Pillar rushed up from behind the barrier, he felt as if he was about to break through to the 8th heaven of the Saint Venerate realm. At the same time, beside him, the white tiger and little Taichu naturally felt the same. They were all shocked. Then, after a few breaths, the Saint Light Pillar gradually dissipated. The space behind the barrier became clear. It was a green space. Immortal herbs and exotic flowers were everywhere. In the center sat a vigorous ancient tree. It was almost 100 feet tall. Every leaf and every branch were intertwined with various strange patterns. The entire ancient tree was surrounded by a faint saint light. That feeling was as if the ancient tree was the materialized barrier of heaven and earth. The Bodhi tree. It's really here. The white tiger trembled in excitement. This ancient tree was exactly the same as the Bodhi tree described in the history books. Yeah. The little Taichu opened his eyes wide. Lin Tian was naturally shocked. His eyes flashed with light, and he directly walked forward. The Bodhi tree was very important. He had to immediately dig it out and take it away. Whoosh! 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 Chapter 2162. Figures appeared one after another. They were all saint rulers, and their bodies were intertwined with astonishing saint might. These people were the experts of the celestial court. They were far more powerful than the other cultivators in this world, and they had rushed here at this time. There were hundreds of them. They've come so quickly. The white tiger could not help but grit his teeth. At the same time, he was shocked by something else. The celestial court's strength was too unfathomable. Cultivators like saint rulers were rare in the ordinary world, but in the celestial court, there were as many of them as there were feathers. There had been more than 200 saint rulers when they were hunting him down, and now there were still so many saint rulers rushing here. It was truly shocking. Hundreds of saint rulers appeared here, and their eyes naturally fell on the Bodhi tree in front of them. The legendary saint tree. These celestial soldiers did not know that this place had already been discovered by the dominators of this branch. When they arrived at this place, they all stared blankly. They even ignored Lin Tianyi and the others who lived here. Then hundreds of people moved at the same time. They all rushed toward the Bodhi tree in front of them, wanting to take it away. Little guy, kill them with the stupid tiger. I'll take the saint tree. Lin Tian ordered the little Taichu and the white tiger. At this time, he did not have the time to deal with these celestial soldiers. Digging out the Bodhi tree was the most important thing. Yeah. The little Taichu nodded seriously and immediately moved. The six-colored radiance completely enveloped the surrounding area. Immediately, a large number of Saint Kings died directly. Tiger Lord is coming too. The white tiger was currently at the 7th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler, but his battle prowess was stronger than ordinary 9th heavenly layer Saint Rulers. When he moved now, the radiance shook, and he killed dozens of Saint Rulers in the blink of an eye. The expressions of the Saint Rulers who arrived at this place changed. They were stunned by the little Taichu and the white tiger's battle prowess. Many of them could not help but retreat. The little Taichu and the white tiger did not care whether they retreated or not. They did not stop at all. Rays of saint light pressed down on them. Ah! The group of celestial court saint kings who had rushed to this place were immediately thrown into chaos. They screamed and were beheaded one after another. Lin Tian did not care about these things. At this time, he approached the Bodhi tree. When he walked up to the Bodhi tree and looked at its leaves and branches up close, the divine inscriptions on them made his spirit tremble for some reason. When he looked at these divine inscriptions, he felt his body become dozens of times lighter. Moreover, he had even more ideas about how to improve his reincarnation sutra. This caused him to be moved. He thought to himself that this Bodhi tree was indeed worthy of being a legendary sacred tree. It was truly extraordinary. He had merely leaned close to it and did not try to comprehend anything, yet it had naturally produced such an effect. If he could use the sacred tree to cultivate and comprehend the Tao, how shocking would the effects be? Thinking of this, even though his mental state was very strong and profound, he could not help but become excited at this time. Then, he took a deep breath and activated the dragon burial scripture. Strands of dragon inscriptions intertwined as he began to dig the sacred tree. The Bodhi tree was born here. It was not an ordinary tree. It was very difficult to dig it away with ordinary methods. This was because the sacred tree had already merged with the forces of heaven and earth in this world. It needed to be broken down to take it away. Buzz! The dragon burial scripture was activated. Strands of dragon inscriptions intertwined and jumped like real dragons. They sank into the ground of the Bodhi tree. The forces of heaven and earth in the surroundings were disintegrated by him bit by bit. At the same time, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. In the distance, people kept appearing. They were all experts of the celestial court. Their auras were not weak. The weakest of them was a saint king. Then, Saint Venerables gradually appeared and rushed over. However, they were only Saint Venerables, so it was not a big deal. Now, little Taichu was at the fifth heaven of the Saint Venerate realm. With the power of the immortal spirit royal family's bloodline, not many people below the Dominator realm could withstand it. The experts of the celestial court who rushed over, regardless of whether they were Saint Kings or Saint Venerables, were all killed one after another. Just like this, a day passed in the blink of an eye. Experts kept appearing in this place. There were even Dominator realm experts who rushed over. However, little Taichu had an emperor weapon given to him by Lin Tian. Lin Tian had also given the white tiger an emperor weapon. With the two combined, it was completely possible to kill a Dominator realm expert with an emperor weapon. Blood kept spurting out in this place. Screams were endless. Lin Tian activated the dragon burial scripture and continued to break down the forces of heaven and earth outside the Bodhi tree. More dragon inscriptions intertwined. I still need about half a day, he muttered to himself. The forces of heaven and earth outside the Bodhi tree were very complicated. Like the green vines from before, it was very troublesome to break through. Immediately, he activated the dragon burial scripture even faster. More dragon inscriptions intertwined to break the forces of heaven and earth even faster. At the same time, right at this time, this place suddenly trembled greatly, an extremely terrifying pressure descending. A total of 3 middle-aged men appeared together. They were all dressed in the unique attire of the celestial court. Their auras were intertwined with each other. Lin Tian was immediately moved. At the same time, little Taichu and White Tiger's expressions also changed. They hurriedly retreated. Oh no! White Tiger's expression immediately turned ugly. As of now, they were no match for a transcending heavens expert. At the same time, the other experts of the celestial court who had rushed to this place were also moved. When they saw the 3 middle-aged men suddenly appear, they hurriedly bowed to them. The 3 middle-aged men did not care about the celestial soldiers and celestial generals. Their eyes immediately fell on the Bodhi tree. Then, the 3 of them naturally saw Lin Tian and Lil Taichu. The light in their eyes intensified. Taimu, Those people's reports are true, and there are actually other surprises. One of the three middle-aged men spoke to another. Reincarnated bodies, descendants of the celestial spirit royalty. Both of them are here. I heard that reincarnated bodies have already appeared. It's true. We met them here, Taimu said. His eyes were extremely deep. He stared at Lin Tian without blinking, as if he wanted to see through Lin Tian. What an unexpected gain. The three of them had received reports from the Dominator's subordinates that the Bodhi tree existed in this world. They had immediately rushed here. Now that they had arrived, they were pleasantly surprised to see the Bodhi tree. They did not expect to see reincarnated bodies. In comparison, reincarnated bodies were much more valuable than the Bodhi tree. The Bodhi tree could not be compared to reincarnated bodies. As for the descendants of the immortal spirit royal family, to them, they were also of great value in suppressing them. Do it, another of the three lords of heaven said. Immediately, the three of them moved at the same time. At this moment, they released their ascending level saint power and grabbed Lin Tian and little Taichu. They wanted to suppress Lin Tian and little Taichu first before taking the Bodhi tree. Lin Tian immediately felt a chill run down his spine. There was no way he could stop the three ascending level experts. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.